Hey friends, welcome to Shigaraki. So today we are gonna see what if Deku was the villain all along. So before we start, check out my Patreon page for 18+ exclusive. Very mature content. We will now proceed to the video. All for One had sent a lackey with a stealth quirk, someone capable of staying unnoticed by the number one hero, in order to keep track of all MIGHT and keep an eye out for good candidates for Tamura's replacement. All for One didn't have much choice after Tamura died. Sure, he could take just about any goon off the street with a bone to pick with All Might and turn them into a force to be reckoned with. But what would be the point of that? What he desired was a personal connection. It wasn't just about taking All Might, or his successor, down. It was about breaking his spirit. If watched long enough, All Might would mess up. It wasn't ideal, Tamura had been perfect, but it would have to do. All Might would screw up, ruin someone's life. And he'd be there to pick up the pieces. Direct that anger. Turn that anger into hatred, and that hatred into power. So his lackey followed All Might everywhere he went. And All for One watched what All Might did. And how the people around him reacted to it. And then this slime quirk user. Well, he supposed he'd seen dumber. Through the sewers All Might went, following after the villain. And he caught the guy. Because of course he did. And he stayed to make sure the kid who was attacked was okay. Because of course he did. He even signed the hero-obsessed kids. Notebook. Ellipsis. All for One turned the mic on. It wasn't unusual for him to tell the lackey to look closer at something. Granted, he didn't always watch the feed, but, with All Might only able to do hero work for 3 hours a day, he didn't need to. When All Might and the kid look away, get a better view of that notebook. All for One wasn't surprised it was filled with notes on heroes, he'd expected as much from the title. No, what was surprising was how detailed the notes were. And this is number 13. If the other 12 are anything like this one. Keep watching the kid, for now. After the kid woke up. And All Might got ready to leave, All for One expected to have to tell his lackey to drop watching the kid to follow the hero. But that kid, he had guts, clinging to All Might like that. Then the icing on the cake, after landing. The kid asked, can someone without a quirk become a hero like you? And that fool. Not only did All Might actually revert to his unpowered form in front of the kid, the idiot actually told the kid, no, and to be realistic. And walked away. The lackey went to follow All Might. No. The lackey stopped moving. Stay with the child. Poor thing looked on the verge of tears, absolutely crushed. He's smart and observant. He has drive. If left alone, he probably will become a police officer like All Might suggested. An excellent one, even. Yes, he'll do nicely. And like that, All for One's plan began anew. Follow the kid. Don't let him out of your sight. Izuku was walking alone, away from where he'd just met his idol. Not really paying attention to where he was going. Maybe that's how he ended up inside all of a sudden. He was in some kind of bar, he thought. And sitting in front of him were two people he didn't recognize. Izuku looked around, thinking he'd just wandered into someplace he wasn't supposed to be, starting to freak out and apologize to them. It's all right. You made no mistake, Midoriya-san, came a deep voice from the bar. We're the ones who should apologize to you. Taken aback, Izuku actually stopped to look at him. The man talking, well, with all the different quirks in the world, Izuku couldn't be sure why. But, the top half of his face seemed scarred. The man didn't have any eyes, but seemed to be looking right at him. But after my subordinate heard the awful things All Might said to you, we couldn't help but step in. The other man, who looked like he was made of shadows, set a glass of water on the counter in front of Izuku. Please, sit down, the eyeless man said to him, I have some questions for you. I really should be getting home, Izuku said. This wasn't good. This was the opposite of good. Everything about these guys screamed, villains, and they'd been watching All Might. Without All Might even knowing. Now, no reason to panic. Kurogiri here can get you home faster than any train. He has a portal-creating quirk, you see, the eyeless man said. I only want to know how badly you wish to become a hero. Izuku paused, his conversation with All Might flashing through his mind. I, All for One watched the kid's face fall. That was all the answer he needed. Time to set the plan in motion. You see, I'm in charge of a group of, well, vigilante heroes. Huh, Izuku blabbed, then immediately covered his mouth. Haha, it's all right to act shocked. The eyeless man smiled, no need to hold yourself to formalities, go ahead and ask, if you want. Lowering his hands, Izuku asked hesitantly, but, why? Heroes make it to most crimes practically before they have a chance to happen. Why would? Because, all for one feigned anger, the system is corrupt. The so-called heroes are more focused on making money and becoming famous than on actually helping people. Not to mention the battles they aren't fighting. Like, for example, Izuku felt the man's non-existent eyes on him again. Society's prejudice against the quirkless. There was a beat of silence as Izuku and the man studied each other. Tell me, Izuku Midoriya, what is a quirk? And I don't mean the definition given in your textbooks. He was sweating, I'm not sure what you mean. What I mean, young man, is this, a quirk is, the eyeless man got up, nothing more than a tool. Linking his hands behind his back and pacing, he continued. Some tools are useful in a variety of ways. Others are a burden except in very specific situations. Many can be used as weapons, if turned against another person. The only difference between a tool and a quirk is that one is made, while the other is born. So I ask you again, Izuku Midoriya, how badly do you want to be a hero? Izuku, still standing, turned his head away. He looked toward the untouched glass of water. Though he wasn't really seeing it. He thought hard for a moment, then turned back to the man. The eyeless man was facing him, non-existent gaze penetrating. Izuku's expression wasn't nervous anymore. No offense to you and your organization. But not badly enough to break the law to do it. All for one smiled. That won't be a problem. He gestured to Kurogiri, and Kurogiri handed him his own glass of something. Alcohol of some kind, Izuku had no doubt. We'll just train you so you can become a licensed hero. Izuku's jaw nearly hit the floor. But it took him a few moments to find the words. All for one took a sip of his drink, waiting patiently. Izuku felt like he was about to faint. Too much was happening in one day. But, if he's serious. You really think I could make it? Ha, he looked at the boy, smiling. If Izuku weren't so happy, he might have found the smile unnerving. I wouldn't even be offering if I thought otherwise. That, he gestured toward the notebook in Izuku's hands, tells me all I need to know. Izuku looked at the notebook, burned from when Kachan took it, wavy pages and torn edges from its time in the ND with the fish, and with All Might's signature in it. Kid, Izuku Midoriya, I promise you, he looked back up at the man promising him the world. You have what it takes to be the world's first quirkless hero. Tears were blurring Izuku's vision before he even knew what was happening to him. Of course, the man sipped his drink again. He took a deep breath. It will be grueling. And I won't go easy on you. Knowing that, he turned back to Izuku. Without any more prompting, Izuku answered, I know, RDER than anyone else. But, he thought to himself, I have no reason to refuse. With steel in his eyes, Izuku shouted. I want to be a hero. And the kid did, indeed, work harder than anyone else. For 10 months he endured the most grueling, but efficient, training possible under the mysterious man he knew only as Master. If anyone knew the man's name, they never spoke it in front of Izuku. He was trained in strength, speed and agility, strategy, and even in the use of various weapons. And when the 10 months ended, he applied to the UA High School Hero course. I moved on pure instinct. A quick step to the left, move aside, DEKU. And watched as Kachan walked past where I just was. Without even brushing against my clothes. I watched him go for a moment, then continued walking up to UA's front doors. Today was the practical portion of the entrance exam. And, I actually felt ready for it. I guess all that combat training really did pay off. I feel really calm today. I noticed a girl pass me. She had pink hair, and, wow, she was really cute. And yet, I felt numb. It's not like I haven't experienced this before. It's just that weird plant master had me keep in my room last night. I really hope that's not cheating. It shouldn't be, right? I mean, it's just like drinking a bit of tea or coffee or something. Normally, I knew, I would have been muttering and fidgeting a lot more with all the stress. The fact that I wasn't, bothered me a little. Master had had me sleep with that plant in my room while training, and it didn't make me feel all that different in the morning. Just slightly calmer for an hour or two. But I wouldn't have been as stressed by training in the first place, so, maybe my sense of its effect was off. Yeah, what else could it be? Dismissing my concerns, I continued walking, silent and observant, all the way into the auditorium, until I found my seat next to Kachan. Oh man, present Mike. I started fanboying a little over the pro hero. Until Kachan told me shut up, anyway. I listened, with stars in my eyes, as present Mike explained the rules of the exam. 10 minutes. Bring along whatever you want. Take out as many faux villains as possible. No attacking other examinees. Oh, and watch out for the 0-point gimmick villain. Then we were released to our exam sites. All intense focus, I made my way to the front of the pack so I could, hopefully, get a head start. As Kurogiri-sensei would say, always take any advantage you can. While waiting, I double-checked my gear. We were allowed to bring anything we wanted, but Master had been very insistent about simplicity. I was in the warehouse. Say Master had set aside for me to train in. Kurogiri-sensei stood behind me, rigid with tension. I'd only just finished the day's training with him when Master had arrived, saying he needed to speak with me about the upcoming exam. Master stood in front of me, a table set up behind him. I trust you've studied for the written portion thoroughly. And Kurogiri assures me you're prepared for the practical portion. As such, you are to pass the practical portion using a bow staff and nothing more. My face fell. He couldn't be serious. But Master held up his hand, and I went silent. I'm aware. That's not how you've become used to fighting. And that, in fact, is the point, because Master picked up a small box from the table, then turned back to me. If you manage to pass the entrance exam. Despite this disadvantage, you will be given equipment that is more advanced. Master stepped forward and, despite his lack of eyes, met my gaze. I am confident that you could not only pass the exam, but come in first. If given all of your usual tools, Master smirked, but it wouldn't do to put an unnecessary target on your back so early on. So consider this, he gestured to the box, additional motivation. I glanced around at the other examinees. I couldn't tell all of their quirks, but many of them only had a minor mutation type. Hardly any more useful than my staff, and they definitely had less training. I could tell just from how they were standing. Just like Master said, the doors, remarkably silently, swung open. Not at a disadvantage at all. Present Mike's voice rang out from above us, and, begin. Quote, I, and a few others, who'd been paying attention, sprinted inside. I could hear Present Mike shouting at the stragglers to get going, but I was focused on taking out the robots in front of me. They were pretty brittle, a jab to the right spot was all it took to take them down. Every now and again, someone else would trip or get hit by a robot, and I would step in. I'd help them up, or stop the robot from attacking. I lost a few points for it, sure, but what kind of hero doesn't stop to help someone in trouble? Still, though, even with my head start, those with powerful quirks easily made up for that initial gap. I'd only gotten 18 points when it happened. I felt the ground shaking underneath me. Then, I started rising. Something was lifting me into the air. The 0-pointer. Quote, it had come out of the ground. Right underneath me. Quickly, before I got too high, I did my best to make my way down the robot. I wasn't exactly a master at parkour after less than a year. But I made it maybe halfway down, before tripping. The ground rushed at me. I started panicking. No, I can't die here. I don't want to. Single quote. Just as I was about to splat. Only a couple meters from the ground, a hand reached out and slapped my arm. And I stopped falling. It was the cute girl from the walk inside. She was floating on a broken piece from one of the robots, trembling. A strained look on her face. Is she hurt? Release, she said, tapping her fingers together. It wasn't a gentle landing, but it was way better than what would have happened. Then the girl threw up, and some of the tension left her body. It must have been her quirk, I assumed. But when I ran over to thank her, I spotted her leg. It was all bruised, and possibly even broken. She looked up, and I snapped out of my daze to thank her. Thank you so much. She grimaced, but also smiled. No problem. Hey, I said, a spark in my eyes, we still have time left. Let's work together to get a few more points. It's the least I can do. Quote. She stared at me for a moment, then returned my smile. Yeah, let's do it. Here, I can reduce your weight. I had her climb onto my back, being careful of her leg. And for that last minute, with the reduced weight and extra pair of eyes, we each managed to get 5 more points. But, even after all that effort, we still had to wait an entire week before we could find out who passed, and who didn't. The door to the warehouse slammed shut behind Izuku. At first glance, it looked empty. But he knew better than to judge that by appearance. Master wouldn't have called him to an empty building. Izuku walked to the center of the large room without hesitation or fear. In the center was a couple of chairs and a desk, with a copy of his exam results on it. But, how did Master get those? You placed in the top 10. Well done. Izuku startled, but recovered quickly. Master seemed to love appearing from now here almost as much as taking up the entire room with his presence. Thank you, sir. Have a seat. They sat down, facing each other, and Master grabbed the papers, seeming to inspect them. His lack of eyes never seemed to influence his vision. Once again, Izuku wondered what the man's quirk was. 9th place, 23 villain points and 30 rescue points. Could have been better, but still an impressive feat with only the staff. He set the papers back down. I am pleased. Izuku was practically glowing with pride. But that's not all I brought you here to discuss. Master picked up a different paper, an acceptance letter. Izuku couldn't see whose it was. It seems All Might will be teaching at UA. Izuku's expression flattened. Shouldn't you feel excited? The number 1 hero will be on and fiddled with the edge of his shirt. I'm not sure how to feel. He looked back up at Master. I know he saved me and all. He's saved so many people. All Might, he's amazing. It's just. His gaze dropped to the floor again. After what he said, I just don't know. His hands clenched around the fabric, how to feel about him anymore. It's understandable. He did try to crush your dream, after all. Saying you couldn't be a hero without a quirk, as though it's their quirks that make them special, even though only 4 out of 5 people have one. He meant well, though. He just wanted to keep me safe. And you wanted to help keep others safe. Well, I'm sure you'll learn a lot from him. Yeah, speaking of which, you have almost an entire month before the start of term. And you can't afford to stop improving. Your training regimen will continue as before. Yes, Master. Spring. Izuku. Have you got your pocket tissues? Yeah. And your handkerchief. Have you got that? Yes. I've got it. No time. Gotta hurry. Izuku shoved the last of his supplies into his bag. He was nervous. I wish Master would let me sleep with that plant in my room every night. He threw his bag over his shoulder, paused to give his mom a kiss on the cheek, then moved toward the door. But I guess there must be a good reason for it. Izuku. Izuku paused, his hand on the doorknob. His mom looked at him, teary-eyed. You look great. ! He straightened, slightly more confident. And grinned. Thanks, see you later. Love you. I still can barely believe I made it into UA. I wonder who my classmates will be. I hope Kachan and I are in the same class. Kachan had cornered him after class when he'd found out they'd both made it in. Yelled at him about how he'd torn his grand plans to shreds, of being the first and only of their school students to make it into UA. Thought I told you to go somewhere else. He'd said, pinning Izuku to a wall. Even Izuku couldn't believe what he did next. What he couldn't believe was that he'd put up with Kachan's behavior this long. Izuku twisted out of Kachan's grip and pinned him to the wall. Kachan stayed frozen in shock for a couple seconds, and Izuku let go before he regained his senses. Standing tall, fists clenched, Izuku said, I earned my place just like you did. Kachan spun around with a growl, his palms smoking. But Izuku had refused to flinch. Someone told me that I could become a hero. That's why I'm gonna be here no matter what. He'd gotten his wish. When he arrived in the classroom, he saw Kachan being confronted by a serious-looking student. He decided to ignore them, but before turning to his desk, he heard a voice call from behind him. "Ah, that curly hair. The plain-looking boy. It was the cute girl. And without the plant's calming effect to help him, she's too cute in that uniform." Izuku was sweating, trying very hard not to look at the cute girl who was way too close, and talking to him. What was she saying? And why did he have to be sweating so much? Thankfully he was saved by an unusual arrival. "If you're here to socialize, then get out." They were all caught off guard by the sleeping bag the man was wearing. But they didn't have long to dwell over it. This man, it turned out, was their homeroom teacher, Mr. Shota Aizawa. And the first thing he did, aside from chide them for taking so long to quiet down, was order them to change into their gym uniforms and head out to the grounds, so he could test their quirks. "I hope this batch is better than last year's," I thought as I watched the students line up. I started my explanation of the day's activities by listing off the standard no quirks allowed gym tests. No need to go into detail, the students already knew them. This country still insists on prohibiting quirks when calculating the averages of those records, I explained. It's not rational. The Department of Education is just procrastinating. I picked a student suited to the task, Bakugo, and ordered him to throw a softball, using his quirk however he liked, as long as he didn't leave the circle I'd placed him in. And, of course, he was able to throw it much farther using his quirk than when not using it. It's important for us to know our limits. That's the first rational step to figuring out what kind of heroes you'll be. The other students got excited at the idea of freely using their quirks. Typical. Just like last year. Annoyed by their exclamations and carefree attitudes, I dropped the bomb. Right. The one with the lowest score across all 8 events will be judged hopeless, and will be expelled. Uraraka, who was standing right next to that quirkless kid, exclaimed. The lowest scorer will be expelled. It's only the first day. I mean, even if it weren't, that's totally unfair. The faces of the students behind her mirrored that sentiment. Geez, unfair, huh? Time to burst their bubbles. Natural disasters, highway pileups, rampaging villains, calamity is always right around the corner. I'd say Japan is full of unfair things. Heroes are the ones who correct all that unfairness. I brushed the hair out of my eyes, sighing. I can't believe I have to explain this every year. If you were hoping to spend your evenings hanging out at McDonald's, I'm sorry to tell you that for the next 3 years, UA will run you through the ringer. Quote. Still, seeing them overcome these obstacles. That feeling of pride is why I'm still a teacher. I curled my finger in a, come here, gesture. That's plus ultra. Use your strength to overcome it all. Bring it. Quote. The rest of the students weren't discouraged by my harsh words. Rather, I could feel them growing even more restless and determined. Even the most nervous of the bunch were starting to get fired up. There's hope for these kids yet. Now, the demonstration is over. But before we begin, Izuku Midoriya. The boy jumped at the realization that I was staring right at him. That ridiculous entrance exam, completely irrational when you consider someone like you got in. Still, it's impressive. That the kid did manage to get in without a quirk. But, regardless of how hard he tries, I know what experience has taught me. With no quirk, you'll only end up inconveniencing those around you, when they inevitably have to step in to help. And this is a school, not a playground for you to pretend to be all might. Narrowing my eyes, I exclaimed, harsh though it was, Izuku Midoriya. You cannot become a hero without a quirk. Quote. There was a tense silence. Then I sighed, but what the hell? Give it a shot. I'm just telling you now, no one's going to change the rules for you. Now, let's get this over with. Inside, I wondered, will he give it his all and go down swinging? Or shrink away from the challenge and end up with the lowest score? If he fought for it, maybe. Single quote. No. Either way, I doubt he stands a chance. Still, it's impressive he even made it in. But, as I watched the students, waited to see how creatively or not they decided to use their abilities. Midoriya is actually. Izuku was in the warehouse, jumping through portal after portal. Or rather, when you panic, you lose. When you get lost in thought, you lose, Kurogiri-sensei said. Izuku lunged again, but in vain. He went barreling through yet another portal. Instead of the book in Kurogiri-sensei's hand, he was met with the hard, cement floor. Izuku got up to try again, but Kurogiri-sensei held up his hand. Izuku stopped in his tracks, panting, his hands on his knees. The key is finding that balance between driving emotion and cool-headed logic. Use the fear and turn it into energy. Find the paths to victory that are available to you, and focus on one of them. If that path gets cut off, simply turn to the next. But most of all, Kurogiri-sensei put a hand on Izuku's shoulder, lifting him from his crouch and meeting his eyes. Just breath. Izuku's breathing evened out and the boy stood up straight. Good. Now, Kurogiri held the book out once more, and opened a myriad of portals around the warehouse. Take the book. I won't move. At first, Izuku had panicked. He had no quirk, so how was he supposed to? But Kurogiri-sensei's lessons came back to him. And Izuku took a deep breath. Mr. Aizawa said he wouldn't change the rules for me, after all. He let the breath out slowly. He didn't need to win. I just need to not have the lowest score. Single quote. Ellipsis. Moving along. Time for the results. Your total scores simply reflect your performance in each of the events. Explaining the process would be a waste of time, so all you get are the final rankings. And I wasn't lying about expelling someone. Many of the students looked tense, uncertain about their results. I clicked a button on the remote in my hand, and a hologram appeared displaying the students' scores. Instant relief. Midoriya, I noticed, looked ready to collapse at the sight of the number 16 next to his name. Relief, for all but one. Minoru Mineta. There was a shuffling of students. And a short purple boy came to the front. He was crying, but I ignored it. Go to the principal's office. They'll know why you're there. The rest of you, we're done here. Your documents about the curriculum and such are back in the classroom. Give them a look. And without another word, I walked away. After seeing Midoriya's performance, I was conflicted. Had I made the right decision? That kid, he doesn't have no chance. I suppose. He did perform better than some of the others, and they showed promise. I can't ignore that. Still, should I have just cut him loose anyway? After all, here's nothing crueler than letting someone chase their half-baked dreams. Midoriya. Iida called out to me on my way out of the school later that same day. He caught up to me, resting a hand on my shoulder. That was very impressive, keeping up with all of us the way you did. Thanks. Expelling someone, Iida put a hand to his chin, motioning with the finger of his other hand animatedly. At first, I couldn't believe our own instructor would do such a thing, but I suppose that's how it is at the top. I didn't get it. Why come up to talk to me? It's not like I knew this Iida guy. Maybe it's just cause we left at about the same time, so he spotted me in the crowd. You too. Uraraka came running up next. Headed to the station. Wait up. Infinity Girl, said Iida. She looked surprised by the nickname. I'm Ochako Uraraka. You're Tenya Iida and Midoriya. Deku. Right. Deku. I exclaimed. She looked confused. During the test, that Bakugo guy said, damn you, Deku. Right. Sweating nervously, gesturing wildly, and avoiding eye contact with the too cute girl, I managed to stumble out an explanation. My real name is Izuku. Deku is just Kachan being a bully. A derogatory pet name then, muttered Iida, clearly bothered by that. Oh gotcha. Sorry. Uraraka apologized, rubbing the back of her neck nervously. But then, clenching her fist in front of her and smiling brightly, she continued, but, Deku, well, it just screams, do your best. I kinda like it. The way it sounds. Oh, man, too cute. Judging by how hot my cheeks felt, I was blushing even more deeply now. This changes everything. Deku's fine. Iida tried to talk me out of it, but I ignored him. Because, if even the name, Deku, could become something I could wear proudly. And regardless of the way the other students looked at me, or the way our teachers treated me. If Uraraka could still smile at me cheerfully, I just might like it at this school after all. Ellipsis. I have. The students heard a voice call from down the hallway. We all knew that voice. And I knew it better than most. I grimaced slightly, but I couldn't deny I was still a little excited. He's here. With a gust of wind, All Might was suddenly leaning into the room from the door frame. Come through the door, like normal. My classmates muttered to themselves and each other, excited and freaking out over the number one hero. All Might whistled a tune, marched to the front of the room, turned his back to us and posed exclaiming, "Hero basic training. The class that'll put you through all sorts of special training to mold you into heroes." He faced us again. No time to dally. Today's activity is battle training. From the seat in front of me, I heard Kachan mutter, "Battle," with a grin in his voice. All Might continued, "And for that, you need these." Parts of the wall to our left slid out with a rumble. There were containers inside with numbers on them. It was our costumes, specially made for us thanks to UA's uniform subsidy. Mine was a simple, thin, reinforced body armor. I hadn't been able to decide on a design, though, so the company had just given left it a plain black. It had holsters and compartments for all the weapons Master had given me. As promised, I stared, wide-eyed, at the assortment of weapons, armor, and other additions to my costume, many which I didn't even recognize, let alone know how to use. Kurogiri-sensei, this is too much. You'll start training to use them immediately. But as for what you'll take to school with you, Kurogiri-sensei pointed to a selection of 4 items. These should be sufficient for most situations. There was an extendable, retractable bow staff, smoke pellets, net grenades, and a trick gun. Although I had a simple grapple gun instead of the trick gun at the moment, since it still needed to be approved. Once it was, though, I could discard the grapple gun in favor of the trick gun's grapple setting. One less thing to carry. The suit covered my entire body, including my head. I could see and breathe through the part covering my face, although I wasn't sure what the material was. All in all, it was not really a look that suited me, in my opinion. But it would do for now. Until I actually figured out what look would suit me. When we made it to the training grounds, a faux city, I was surprised to see an older student next to All Might. Apparently, he was Mirio Tagata, All Might's teaching assistant. "Don't mind me," he said, waving and smiling at the class, "I'm just here to observe for now." All Might explained the rules of our indoor anti-personnel battle training, and we drew lots to determine the teams. I ended up teamed with Uraraka. Seriously. I can barely say 2 words to her. Geez, where's that plant when I need it? And, just my luck, facing off against Kachan and Iida in the very first matchup. As All Might was encouraging the 2 boys to adopt a villain mindset and not hold back, Kachan bragged about how certain his victory against us was. Uraraka and I waited outside while the villains prepared for the battle. Strangely, strategizing for a battle, preparing to face unfair odds in order to train, to get stronger. It almost felt like I was back with Kurogiri-sensei and Master. "So that's you, DEKU. Cool costume. Real practical looking." I didn't answer her, instead staring at the blueprints of the building we were to infiltrate. Uraraka stared at me, at my face that was only just barely visible through my mask. "Are you worried?" I looked up at her. "No. Why?" If anything, she was the one who looked worried. "It's just, Bakugo, he's the one who bullies you, right?" I lowered the blueprints. "Yeah, we'd better be on guard." "Actually, yeah. Why aren't I worried? Since Kachan may be a jerk, but he's amazing, he's stronger than me in almost every way. Iida too. Their quirks are only tools." We should come up with a strategy." Uraraka smiled at me, pumped. "Kachan is sure to come straight at me." So, I smiled back. "I have a few ideas, actually." Back in the monitor room, All Might was distracted. He'd been distracted from the moment he recognized the 2 boys in his class. Well, he'd known they'd with Aizawa's reputation, he'd expected that green-haired kid to have been expelled already. He was worried. He'd found out when he'd saved Bakugo that the boy had a nasty temper. And his quirk was incredibly strong. And he might have been imagining it, but there seemed to be a dangerous tension between the 2 boys. But, as the teacher, he couldn't. No, Midoriya is just another student. A quirkless student, but a student. Someone I'm meant to teach and prepare to become a hero. If the kid has made it this far on his own, then he can handle himself. But there was no need to let things get out of hand, right? When we got the signal to start, Uraraka used her zero gravity on me, and grabbing her, I grappled us to the top of the building. While we couldn't be certain of where the villains were holed up, it was likely to be higher, rather than lower. Higher ground is easier to defend, said Kurogiri-sensei. This is a natural human instinct, as well as a fact of battle. And also, I thought to myself, by coming from the top, we just might catch them off guard. A sneak attack wasn't just our best chance, but, really, our only chance. Even when you're outclassed and outmatched, the element of surprise can even any odds. So it was unfortunate that we were up against someone with enough speed to, potentially, counter that key advantage. I had been right. Kachan had already headed downstairs to try and attack me directly. But there was only one entrance into the room containing Iida and the weapon. Uraraka and I tried to circle around and inside through the windows, but Iida spotted us just in time. Bakugo. They're up here, he yelled into his micro-transceiver. He rushed at me, since I was closer to the weapon, but Uraraka managed to slap his shoulder as he passed her. He floated into the air. He'd lost his speed advantage. But before we knew it, we could already hear the sounds of explosions closing in on us. There was no time. I barely managed to hide myself against the wall containing the door before Kachan came barreling through it. I rushed through a portal, only to be grabbed from behind and pinned to the ground. When entering a new space, Kurogiri-sensei said, people will rarely look to the side in those first few seconds. Without even pausing, Kachan charged at Uraraka, who was about to touch the weapon. But before he could land a blow, I threw one of the net grenades, and Ki-ching! He found himself trapped in a net. He tried to blast out of it, but I knew the net was too strong for that. Unfortunately for us, Iida managed to use his recipro burst to reach a wall and all of us stood in a line in front of the rest of the class, our masks removed. Kachan was literally smoking with rage, muttering about a fluke. Well, I'd say, the VIP of this battle was Iida. Exclaimed All Might, I wonder why. Anyone know? I do, All Might sensei, said Momo Yaoyorozu, her hand shooting up. Not only did he capture both heroes, but he stayed focused on his goal and foe. A counter strategy when facing an attack from an unforeseen direction. Very good, Miss Yaoyorozu. All Might congratulated her. But, from next to the teacher, Mirio cut in. I dunno, he said, thoughtful. I think the VIP was Midoriya. My gaze, everyone's, really, shot up from the floor to look at him. My jaw was on the ground in shock. I mean, the hero team shouldn't have stood a chance of winning. Yet Midoriya showed ingenuity in that sneak attack of theirs. It should have guaranteed them victory. They only failed because the villain team had a card hidden up their sleeve. Yes, you're correct. All Might was sweating nervously, but I'd, also add that the hero team should have kept their eyes on both opponents, even if they believed them to be immobilized. Mirio nodded. Still smiling, he turned to us. Yeah, true. It's hard to do in the middle of battle. But, as you found out, it's best to stay aware of all your surroundings. All Might quickly got the next match moving after that and, freed from the awkward tension, the other students started crowding around me. Cool moves, man. I wouldn't have thought to go from outside. Where'd you learn to fight like that? Even Todoroki stopped to give me a, well done, before leaving for his own match. I did my best to laugh off their questions. I couldn't tell them about Master, after all, and, thankfully, they were distracted when the next match started. Kachan was still smoking, but when he saw how quickly Todoroki's power ended the match, he stopped. I noticed the look in his eyes. But when I saw Kachan leave early, I didn't feel any desire to go after him. Really, I didn't. Right. It was the next day, and the students were back in their homeroom. Good work with yesterday's battle training. Aizawa addressed the class. I've looked over your grades and evaluations, and I only have a few notes. Bakugo, Izuku saw him shift slightly in his chair. Work on your awareness of enemies during battle. Even minor threats can take you out if they surprise you. Bakugo grimaced. Got it, he muttered. Midoriya, Uraraka, Iida. Each of them sat straighter when their names were called. Well done. Their expressions shifted from surprised to pleased, and Iida stammered out a, "Ah, thank you, sir. Now, on to homeroom business. Sorry for the sudden announcement, but today, you'll pick a class president." The feel of the room shifted. Everyone started shouting, clamoring to be picked for the position. Oh yeah, Izuku realized after a moment, it's not just a bunch of mundane tasks at UA. To be the leader of a group, it's the kind of position suited for a top hero in the making. After only a few moments of this, Iida, ever the voice of reason, cut through the noise with a suggestion. "I put forward the motion, that our true leader must be chosen by election." "But Iida," countered Tsuyu, "we haven't known each other long enough to build any trust. And everyone'll just vote for themselves," added Kirishima. "That's precisely why anyone who manages to earn multiple votes will be the best suited individual for the job." Iida turned to Aizawa, who had already zipped himself up inside his sleeping bag. "Will you allow this, sensei? However you do it, just make it quick." As expected, most people came out with only a single vote. Although there were a few exceptions. As some people actually had none. Momo Yaoyorozu won with only 3 votes. And the vice president, with only 2, was sitting with Iida and Uraraka at lunch. Izuku said, "I admit, I'm a little worried about being vice president." "Worry not," said Iida. "Midoriya, although I personally felt someone with a quirk to be a more fitting vote, your ingenuity and decisiveness in AP Inch make you a perfectly acceptable leader." Uraraka said, "Didn't you want to be president, Iida? You've got glasses and everything." Iida, looking a bit nervous, set his drink down. He avoided eye contact with both of the other students. "Ambition and suitability are different matters. I humbly made the choice I thought was correct." Noticing his speech pattern, Uraraka excitedly asked, "The way you talk, Iida, are you a rich kid?" Quote. Iida responded hesitantly. Quote. "I don't like people to know, so I try to hide it, but, yes. Mine is a renowned hero family. And I am the second son." Izuku went into fanboy mode after realization hit him. Of course, Ingenium. He employs 65 sidekicks at his office in Tokyo. "So you're finally looking up," and even looking a bit cheered, Iida responded, "How very informed, yes. He is my brother." Now filled with pride for his family, Iida went on, "He leads the people with his unwavering adherence to rules and regulations. A truly beloved hero. It's my admiration for my brother that's inspired my own desire to become a hero." He deflated slightly, smiling with admiration. "Though I realize I'm not yet ready to lead anyone. As the superior candidate, it was right that the role should go to Yao." Izuku paused in their eating. "Never seen you smile before, Iida," Uraraka observed. Is that so? I smile on occasion." Iida has Ingenium to look up to, huh? No longer eating. Izuku watched his classmates banter in front of him. "I guess I have Master and Kurogiri-sensei, but it doesn't feel the same. I don't want to be a vigilante like they are." He looked down at the bowl in his hands. "But, do I still want to be like All Might?" He was taking a break, drinking some water in the middle of training, when Kurogiri asked him, "Tell me, Midoriya." He stopped drinking. "What kind of hero do you want to be?" Izuku looked away, thinking. Every time he thought about becoming a hero, Izuku couldn't help but remember that video. The one of All Might rescuing so many people with a smile on his face. But, at the thought of All Might, Izuku's mind turned to that moment on the rooftop. Yet still, Izuku's fist clenched, and he replied, "I want to be the greatest hero, who smiles as he saves people." "So, you want to be like All Might, correct?" Izuku's gaze shot up to Kurogiri. "It's not an unusual assumption. But, do you really believe society will allow someone who's quirkless, to become the #1 hero?" Kurogiri's wispy, mist-like face was unreadable, but his tone was full of pity. "After all, it is a popularity poll more than anything, isn't it?" Quote. While riding the bus with his class on their way to rescue training, the next day, Izuku was still contemplating that question. But his thoughts were interrupted by Tsuyu. "I generally say what's on my mind, Midoriya." "Oh." Izuku's head snapped to face the frog-like girl. "What is it, Asui?" Call me Suyu, she corrected him automatically, without a quirk. Hero training seems kinda pointless. Why not just become a police officer? Ah, well, he floundered. See, I considered it and all, but. Hold up, Suyu, Kirishima said from the seat on the other side of her. Police officers and heroes are totally different. Heroes can patrol and help people completely independently, and can even have part-time jobs, if they want. Not to mention those support items Midoriya has. You can't have those as a police officer, and they're awesome. You can do a lot of cool stuff with them. Kirishima struck a pose, activating his quirk. Not like my hardening. I'm good in a fight. But it's real boring. I think that's pretty neat, though. Your quirk's more than enough if you wanna go pro, said Izuku. Pro? Aoyama exclaimed from across the aisle. But don't forget that heroes also have to worry about popular appeal. Izuku flinched, just slightly. Aoyama didn't notice. My naval laser is both strong and cool. Perfect for a pro. As long as you don't blow up your own stomach, said Mina. Aoyama didn't seem to like that comment. The conversation was cut short when All Might whooshed by the bus, and everyone realized how close they already were to their destination. 13. Their instructor for the day greeted them by talking about how a lot of quirks could easily be used to kill. How? One wrong move with an uncontrollable quirk, Sue. LD defeat society's restrictions and monitoring of quirks. During Aizawa's physical fitness test, you came to learn of your own hidden potential. Through All Might's battle training, you experienced the danger that your respective quirks can pose to others. This class 13's previously grim demeanor did a 180. Will show you a new perspective. You will learn how to utilize your quirks to save lives. Your powers are not meant to inflict harm. I hope you leave here today with the understanding that you're meant to help people. Izuku thought to himself, I can't help thinking that, somehow, that doesn't apply to me. 13 bowed to the students, the unwilling audience to his speech. That is all. I thank you for listening. Great. Aizawa stepped forward, away from 13, All Might, and Mirio. First off, Midoriya. Izuku felt his stomach drop. Please, let me be wrong. The teacher's words were cold. Without a quirk, these exercises will be pointless for you. Honestly, you should just leave the rescuing to professionals in these situations. It wasn't an attack. His tone made it clear, he was, or he believed he was, stating facts. Which just made it worse. But still, we'll teach you the basics. For now, everyone else will be divided into groups and rotate through the different sites. Listen for your name. While Aizawa listed off names, Mirio approached Izuku. Hey, that's a bummer. But don't let it get to you. Mirio practically shined with optimism. There's plenty of awesome things you'll get to do here at UA. And that strategy you used yesterday, not to mention getting into UA. Without a quirk in the first place. Mirio's eyes sparkled, and he practically shouted, that is so plus ultra. I'm actually kinda jealous. At the older student, T's support, Izuku couldn't help smiling. All Might called Mirio back over, it was time to start the lessons. Before leaving, Mirio said, hey, if you ever want some pointers, or just to train, give me a call, okay? After that, the rest of the day wasn't too bad. But still, Aizawa's tone. Izuku wasn't sure what to call the teacher's tone, actually. Except maybe, pity. Mirio Senpai was right, were plenty of awesome things for me to do at UA. Not long after the rescue training, UA's annual sports festival was announced. Everyone was pumped, but Uraraka seemed especially excited to show her skills. Which reminded me of a question I'd forgotten to ask her. Money. You wanna be a hero for the money. Quote. Ultimately, yeah. Uraraka rubbed the back of her head nervously. Sorry. Ow, it seems base, and really embarrassing, considering your guy's noble motivations and all. She explained that her family ran a construction company, but that business had been bad recently. They were poorer than poor. Uraraka wanted to help her parents by using her quirk to move and lift objects, but they told her they wanted her to make her own dreams come true. And that, when she did, she could take them on vacation. So I'm gonna be a hero. I'll make that money. Uraraka had a determined look in her eyes, so that my mom and dad can have easier lives. I was impressed. So she doesn't just idolize heroes. She's thinking of the practical as well. Seeing how determined Uraraka and everyone else was, it reminded me of the drive I felt while first training with Master. In fact, I felt more determined than ever to prove myself. I can't measure up to most of the others here in strength. But, what I lack in strength, I can make up for in skill. I'm not gonna fall behind. I'm going to aim for the top. With everything I've got. Single quote. During the 2 weeks leading up to the sports festival, I trained and studied. I couldn't find out what events I'd have to deal with, but didn't mean I couldn't prepare for the worst possible outcomes. And there was one thing I knew for sure I'd have to deal with, my fellow students. Thankfully, Master's final gift was ready in time. We were in the warehouse again. Although there was no practice today. Instead, I studied the trick gun, unloaded and reloaded it, and, satisfied that it was just like the one I'd practiced with, holstered it. With this tool at your disposal, you should have no trouble at least reaching the final event of the sports festival, Master said. Actually, I've decided not to use it. I looked up at Master. He was sitting in a chair across from where I was standing, his face as unreadable as usual. At least, not until I reach the final event. I want to keep the element of surprise. That way, I might, my throat tightened, might actually have a chance of winning. Quote. Distressed by his silence, I tried to explain myself, if I end up having to fight someone with a strong quirk, like Todoroki or Iida. The gun will be useless if they know what's coming. My hand tapped the holstered gun, although, I'll still use the grapple, SN using that. Quote. Master, I'm impressed. So you really believe you can win? Well, I mean, I jolted, blanching and gesturing wildly with my hands. I think I might, if. Good. Master stood from the chair he was sitting in, seeming to look up and out of the skylights. When you first came here, you would have been satisfied just making it past the entrance exam and trying again another year. I am quirkless, after all, you would have said. Now, he looked back at me. You've really grasped the truth. I'm proud of you. That was the last thing I expected him to say at that moment. It made me happy. My blanch quickly became a blush. Then I remembered, I hope it's not too much to ask, but. Master had turned to sit back in the chair again, but he stopped and looked back at me. I continued, any edge I can get will be helpful, right? So, may I have the plant tonight? Master had allowed me to use the plant the night before the festival. Even so, the size of the audience in the stadium was still unnerving. I was a bit surprised Kachan was the first-year student representative, but Zero made a good point, in that he had placed first in the entrance exam. The Hero Course entrance exam, you mean, Poin. Ted out a girl from General Studies standing nearby us. I wished I had more time to think about that, because my first thought was just, well, it is a hero school, right? But Kachan was already on stage, ready to deliver the athlete's oath. He was stoic, much more serious than I was used to seeing him. And with that neutral face, he said into the microphone, the athlete's oath, make no mistake about it. I'm gonna take first place. Quote. The other students were understandably upset by that statement, but my brain was spinning. Confidence. No, Kachan's expression didn't change as he walked back to his spot among the crowd. The old Kachan, he definitely would have been smiling as he said that, he's pushing himself. Telling himself he can't lose. I didn't dodge Kachan's shoulder when he passed, I let him bump into me. Somehow, dodging it right then, would have felt like surrender. I need to be careful about him. His guard is up. Winning was never gonna be easy, but midnight, without delay, announced that our first event would be an obstacle race, between every member of all 11 classes. The course is a 4-kilometer lap around the stadium itself. It was what she said next. That stuck out to me, something I was counting on, in fact. Our school preaches freedom in all things. So as long as you don't go off the course, anything is fair game. Racers, to your positions. The lights above the starting gate turned off one by one. Ding, I looked at the size of the starting gate, and the crowd in front of it. Ding, I measured where I was inside that crow. WD, my hand grasped an object on my waist. Ding, Midnight yelled, start. Quote. By the time Todoroki had frozen the ground, I had already grappled past him. Unfortunately, my lead didn't last long. Todoroki was still faster than me on foot. Thanks to his eyes, and Kacchan blasted past me not long after. The next obstacle turned out to be the zero-pointer robots from the hero entrance exam. My grapple was sufficient to get over the hulking ice monoliths Todoroki had made of them as well. As the robots crumbled behind me, I noticed a metal plate fall to the ground nearby. I grabbed it and fastened it to my back. I'm low on tools, since they didn't approve of many of my gadgets. This might be useful. Some of my classmates were falling farther behind than I'd expected. They were hesitating, indecisive over whether to attack the robots or ignore them. Worried, too afraid of getting injured to make the split-second decisions we needed to. I was on the ground again. It seemed like, no matter what strategy I tried, no matter how hard I thought about it, I just couldn't find a way to beat Kurogiri-sensei. He was always one step ahead, a split-second faster. As Kurogiri stood over me, he revealed today's lesson. Planning is important. You must always have a strategy, no matter how simple. However, when in a real battle, the most deciding factor is boldness. He reached a hand out. I took it, and he pulled me to my feet. That is why you must train to the point that these things become second nature. So that you don't need to decide to use them. Move. Keep moving. By the skin of my teeth is fine. Just keep going. A robot locked onto me. Grabbing the plate from my back, I swung it straight between the robot's upper and lower sections, breaking it in two and ending its pursuit. Works as a shield too, this thing's handy. Next was a section of tightropes above a canyon. I didn't pause in returning the plate to my back and grabbing my grapple gun. It seemed to be my saving grace in this event. Definitely a good choice to bring with me. Once on the other side, I noticed a girl using a similar tactic as me, but with some kind of special arrow guns and hover boots. I smiled. Cool. Kacchan and Todoroki were still in the lead when I made it to the minefield. Nothing to grapple onto with just these fences on the sides. I paused for the first time, looking around, analyzing my surroundings to find the best strategy. There are lots of mines nearby me. Anti-personnel mines should only be 14 to 15 cm down. I could dig them up with the plate. I had a crazy idea, and no time to second-guess it. I swallowed nervously while pulling out the metal plate again. Taking a page from your book, Kacchan. After making a pile of the thankfully not too powerful bombs, I held the plate in front of me. Braced myself, aimed, and jumped down onto them, metal plate first. To my, and everyone else's, surprise, it worked. I went shooting past Todoroki and Kacchan. Now to stick the landing. But the two leaders were already catching back up. Passing them again will be impossible. This is my one chance. I gotta stay in the lead. Single quote. Trusting my instincts again, I tightened my grip on the wires holding me onto the plate, let myself flip over and separate from it, and, once close enough to the ground, aimed. And slammed the plate onto a cluster of bombs. I shot forward again just in time, with just enough of a lead to make it through the finish line in first place. Present Mike, and the rest of the audience, went wild. The quirkless kid is in first place. What a turn of events. He's one you shouldn't underestimate. The fact he even made it into UA's hero course should tell you that kid is practically the definition of plus ultra. Is that a hint of pride I hear in your voice? Aizawa, isn't he one of your students? Quivering from exhaustion, Uraraka walked up to me, Iida not far behind her. Deku, that was awesome. To lose a race, of all things. With my quirk, and to someone without any quirk at all. Iida lamented, it's clear I still have progress to make. Todoroki walked up to me with purpose in his step. I stood up straighter instinctively. He paused, then bowed his head. Well done. And like that, he just walked away again. Before I had time to process that, Uraraka got up in my face, first place, though. Man, I'm jealous. I blushed. So close. Nah, it was, well, it wasn't luck, exactly, but I mean, if I'd gotten unlucky. All for one watched the camera feed interestedly. Everything was going remarkably well. If this keeps up, I might not need to use that after all. He switched cameras to get a better view of Midoriya's face. The boy looked ecstatic. He's practically caught in a dream. His perfect fantasy. Good. He switched again, this time to a view of All Might, watching from the audience. The higher he gets in this competition. One of his underlings sat down behind All Might. More, so many more, were visible in the crowd, spread through the entire stadium. The harder he'll fall. Only the top 42 students got to move on. The rest went to participate in something else. But I didn't hear what. I wasn't starting to really feel how nervous I was. The plant's wearing off. Midnight was announcing the second event before most of the students even managed to catch their breath. Now's not the time to lose focus. I chastised myself. Looking up at the screen, I read what my next hurdle was, a cavalry battle. Midnight explained that each team was to have between 2 and 4 members. The objectives were normal, just snag your opponent's headbands while guarding your own. And your individual point values start at 5, at the bottom. So the student who took 42nd place is worth 5 points, 41st is worth 10. Get it? But, our first place participant is worth 10 million points. Quote, if I was nervous before, it was nothing compared that moment. I felt my blood run cold. The higher ranked students are the ones to aim for. This survival game is a chance for a comeback. It's anyone's game. I wasn't sure I wanted to, but I looked around myself anyway. And, like I feared, the other students were staring at me. The eyes on me are just like back in middle school, except now, they're hungry, even more hostile. I tried to ignore the stares, focusing on Midnight's explanation instead. The match will last 15 minutes. Each team's points are determined by its members. The rider will wear a headband displaying the total number of points. A goofy example appeared on the screen, of All Might being held aloft by some of the other teachers. Arrows displayed their individual points, and All Might wore a headband with the total. Until the match ends, you'll all compete to grab each other's points and maintain the ones you have. Another image told us the headbands were only fastened with Velcro. Any headbands you grab must be worn around the neck or higher. But the more headbands you've got, the harder they'll be to manage. Most importantly, even if your headband is taken, and even if your horse formation is broken, it's not over, till it's over. Quote, are the others discussing what would be easy or difficult about this event? I chanced a glance, and let out a relieved breath. They'd stopped staring. Quirks are allowed, so it'll be a brutal battle. However, it's still a cavalry battle. Maliciously attacking another team with the intent of making them fall will get you a red card. And that means you're out of the game. You've got 15 minutes. Time to form your teams. All for One watched as Izuku panicked. But, slowly, just as All for One expected, the shock wore off. Izuku took a few deep breaths. All right. I don't need to worry about getting enough points. Only keeping the ones I have. That means I can focus on defense, so, yeah, him, and her. With a plan now in mind, Izuku looked around to find his preferred teammates. All for One smirked. From the way Izuku was moving with purpose, it seemed his pupil had already formed a plan. Izuku, while looking around, spotted Bakugo, who was surrounded by people from all classes, and all vying to be on his team. But aside from that, everyone's sticking to their own class. Mostly because we don't know about the other class's quirks, but everyone knows I don't have one, and with my point value. They're avoiding me like the plague. Izuku tried approaching one of his classmates, but he didn't even get a word out before they slinked away with a, sorry. Great, EY must figure that the best strategy isn't to hold on to my points the whole time, but to instead try stealing them at the very end. And since I don't have a quirk, they don't trust me to be able to keep it. Then, from behind him, the voice of an angel, DEKU. Team up with MWO. Quote, Uraraka. Izuku spun and leapt toward her in excitement. All for One's smile grew larger. The plant's effects had definitely worn off. And he was eager to see how Izuku performed under such pressure without its effects, after all his training. Why you mean it? Izuku asked her, disbelieving. Everyone's ably gonna come after me for my 10 million. Yeah, but you'll win if you can just run away. Uraraka shined a smile at him, and teaming up with a friend, just seems right. What's wrong? You got all ugly. You're just so Uraraka I can't bear to look at you, Uraraka. Snapping back into serious mode, Izuku said, I actually wanted to team up with you too, so thanks. Partnering with someone you get along with is definitely the best option. His panic, finally, was going away. Now that we've got your quirk, Uraraka, we just need them. With only a few minutes on the clock, the two rushed to gather the other ideal members of their team. All for one listened eagerly to Izuku explain his plan. His pupil was performing better than he'd hoped. But would this be enough? Tokiyami agreed to join Izuku's team easily. Iida, though. Yes, what Tokiyami said. Despite your weaker nature, you've proven your skills in strategy. I'd expect no less, Midoriya. With our quirks behind you, yes. I accept as well. Izuku, Uraraka, Iida, and Tokiyami used the last few minutes to go over their battle strategy a bit more, and before they knew it, your 15 minutes are up. Time to get started, Midnight announced. They formed their horse. At first, Izuku's plan was to have Tokiyami as the rider, since he was the strongest. But then Uraraka told him about not being able to make herself weightless without becoming nauseous. So, to keep their formation balanced, she was the rider instead and, for prime maneuverability, Iida was in front. Let's get a battle cry. Here comes the starting signal. Blood begets blood in the UA. Grand match. They heard present mic over the speakers, formed your teams. Made your plans. Too bad if you haven't. Here we go. The countdown to this brutal battle royale. All the teams took up spots along the outside of the arena. 3, 2, 1, start. The team's nearest team Uraraka immediately rushed them, and someone's quirk caused the ground beneath them to turn into sand. They were sinking. Attacked right off the bat by two teams. Tokiyami, give us some air. Izuku said. Tokiyami, using Dark Shadow, lifted them out of the sand. They could jump long and high with Uraraka's zero gravity this way. Jiro used her quirk to grab at their headband as her team passed them, but Izuku parried her, using his extendable bow staff for the first time during the festival. All for one was pleased he'd managed this long without it. Tokiyami then ordered Dark Shadow to cover their blind spots. Well, barely 2 minutes have passed, but the battlefield's already chaotic. With everyone scrambling for headbands, it's not just the 10 million out there. Those other high rankers are worth a shot as well. When Team Uraraka landed, they were immediately charged again. This time by Shoji's alone. But this is a cavalry battle, said Izuku. We must keep our distance. Tokiyami advised, fighting is best avoided. Right as he said that, a familiar-looking tongue rushed out of the canopy of Shoji's arms. Dark Shadow blocked it before it could get near Uraraka. Good job blocking, Tokiyami. Suyu could just be made out in the shadow on Shoji's back. Whoa, is that legal? Izuku exclaimed. Sure is. Called Midnight. Team Asui uses her smaller size to form less of a horse and more of a tank. Iida sped them away and out of range of Suyu's tongue. But they still weren't allowed a breather. Because, out of nowhere. Getting pretty full of yourself, you bastard. Bakugo came charging at them through the air. Iida managed to change direction at the last second. And Dark Shadow was out and between them and Bakugo now, ready to block an attack or push Team Uraraka into the air. Oh, is leaving your unit really allowed? Zero's tape came and saved Bakugo before he could touch the ground. It is here, on a technicality. Midnight replied to present mic, as long as your feet don't touch the ground. While teams Bakugo and Uraraka squared off. Present Mike's commentary washed over the auditorium, both the doggedly pursued first-place team, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Let's take a look at the current point spread. The screen updated to show the team rankings and their points. Izuku, and All for One, through his cameras, noticed another team pass behind Bakugo's. A hand reached out. How are our teams doing after 7 minutes of play? Oh, now wait just a second. Besides Uraraka, Class A's not looking so hot. What happened to Bakugo? Too simple, really. Class A, said the owner of the hand. Bakugo spun, give that back. I'll freaking kill you. He got us, cried Mina. When Midnight announced the first event, it didn't take a genius to realize they wouldn't be thinning our numbers that much in a preliminary. The rider who'd grabbed the headband smirked and glared condescendingly at Bakugo and his team. It wasn't much of a stretch to imagine they'd be letting a good number of us advance to the next event. 40 or so seemed reasonable. A rumble came from behind Team Bakugo. It was another Class B team. It was the perfect chance to hang back and observe our soon-to-be rivals' quirks and tendencies. So it's only fair that we ended up placing more modestly. The whole class was in on it, said Kirishima. Well, not everyone, but that wouldn't have been a bad idea, Instead of aiming for some fleeting first place, like a horse going for a dangling carrot. Bakugo's otherwise stony face twitched. Ah, but you're already a celebrity, aren't you? The victim of that sludge incident. I'll have to ask you sometime. How does it feel to be known as the kid who needed saving? Kirishima, plans changed. Bakugo was radiating doom. Before we go for DEKU, I've gotta murder every last one of them. Class B, they threw the qualifiers and planned for the long game. Izuku thought, impressed. They want to prove Class B's supremacy. But from that, I can guess that Hey are not necessarily dead set on targeting me. Maybe this won't be too hard to evade. But at almost that same moment, as Present Mike announced they'd reached the halfway mark, Team Uraraka was approached by multiple opponents. Or maybe, it won't be quite that easy. We've stayed still too long. Single quote. Looks like this won't end without a fight, Tokiyami said. They're really gunning for us, Midoriya. No. We're halfway through. We've just gotta keep moving. Todoroki gave orders as his team approached their target. Yaoyorozu, prepare our defense. The insulator too. Right. Kaminari. Yeah, I got it. Just stay alert, Kaminari warned. At that, Kaminari screamed, announcing his special attack for the audience of pro heroes, indiscriminate shock. 1.3 million volts. All the Ms nearby were stopped by the sudden shock. Dark shadow useless against the bright attack. Todoroki took advantage of that. Less than 6 minutes left. No turning back now. He lowered a staff of ice to the ground. Sorry. Just hang in there. All of the frozen team's feet were now literally frozen to the ground. As they passed, Todoroki grabbed another team's headband. I'll be taking this. Tokiyami, Iida, get us out of here. Izuku cried. When Dark Shadow managed to break the ice around their feet, Todoroki tried to freeze them again. But Iida was too fast. Todoroki then tried to block their escape, creating an arena of ice. But Dark Shadow launched them over the wall, higher than anyone had thought they could go. Kurogiri joined All for One in front of the screens. He's doing well so far. All for One nodded, agreeing. Although nothing spectacular, it will keep him in first place. His team will run, other teams will close in, and they'll run again. Hesitantly, Kurogiri commented, you seem dissatisfied. On the contrary, I'm simply eager to see further results. As the competition went on, Todoroki's team was particularly persistent in chasing Team Uraraka. Already holding one of the top spots. They seemed determined to come in first. And getting the 10 million point headband was the only way of doing that. After being humiliated by the Class B team, Team Monoma, and glued in place by yet another team, Bakugo was looking for revenge. Before they could make it to the offenders, however, the scoreboard updated, and Present Mike's commentary blasted through the auditorium again. With just 1 minute left, Todoroki's got 3 headbands, but Uraraka's team still holds first place. Team Uraraka's managed to evade Todoroki, no matter what they've thrown at them. Have we found our top 4 teams for this event? Bakugo looked at the scoreboard. Deku's team were still in the lead. Good, he could take their points himself. That stupid Pebble, how was he making it this far? He would fix that. Below them was Team Monoma, the bastards, with 1360 points. Then Todoroki with 990, and Tetsu in 4th with 940. His team had 0 points. But not for long. Second place, seems too good to be true, Monoma was saying, let's focus on keeping what we've got. Wait just 1 stinkin' minute. Bakugo shouted. Monoma looked over his shoulder at them. Persistent, aren't you? That sort of tenacity is. Get back here, Bakugo. Kirishima shouted. Bakugo had launched himself through the air again. Saburaba. Guard. Monoma yelled. Got it. One of the guys holding Monoma up took a deep breath and blew out. Bakugo came to a stop in midair. Ha, how do you like that? It's an invisible wall, said Saburaba. Bakugo just pulled his arm back, and smashed through it, grabbing at their headbands. He got 2 of them, yelled Monoma. Team Bakugo stolen 2, putting them in 4th place. Shiro pulled Bakugo back to them, as Todoroki moved up to second place on the scoreboard. A late shake-up in the rankings. That's the spirit of youth for ya. Damn it. Monoma cursed. Alright, it's fine. We're in 5th. And Kendo's not going anywhere. Frozen like that, he adjusted their remaining headband. Right. Just have to guard this one with our lives. Give us some warning before you jump. Shiro chided Bakugo when he'd landed back on their horse. But now we're guaranteed to move on, said Kirishima. I ain't done yet. Quote. Huh. Shiro gaped at him. I'm not settling for some half-assed first place. Bakugo, more energized than ever, was banging on Kirishima's hardened head. I couldn't brace myself going at it alone. So move. They sped up. Bakugo's excitement was contagious. We're taking our points back. And then the 10 million. Quote. I'll make that useless Deku realize he's just a pebble in my path to number 1 if it kills me. Soy sauce face. Tape. Now. Bakugo lifted his left leg out of the way. My name's Shiro. Even as he said it, he taped the ground near Team Monoma's feet, already knowing what Bakugo had in mind. You missed, Monoma stated smugly. Raccoon eyes. Bakugo lifted his right leg out of the way now. Melt a path for us with that liquid. It's Mina Ishido. She sprayed the ground beneath Shiro's tape. Shiro reeled them in and, as they sped past, Bakugo. Absolutely merciless. Quote. Bakugo ripped the last headband from around Monoma's neck. What a perfectionist. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. We're nearing the end of the game, now. Switching gears immediately. Bakugo turned in search of his main target. Next up. Deku and Todoroki. Time's almost up. Let's count down. Hey, everybody say, 10, 9, 8. Bakugo spotted Team Uraraka with only 6 seconds left. He launched into the air without hesitation. But, time's up. Quote. All the teams stopped moving, and Bakugo went crashing to the ground. Let's see who the top 4 teams are right now. In first place, Team Uraraka. I almost can't believe how well things are going so far, Izuku thought to himself, as Uraraka hugged him, although, I'm actually, even more scared of the final event because of it. In second, Team Bakugo. Bakugo cursed and screamed. In third, Team Todo, huh. Whoa. Team Shinso. Izuku looked around, then spotted that purple-haired guy who was talking to Goggles Girl earlier. It was just after he'd finished forming HRY battle. Heh. Yes, you're in first place. You sure do stand out. Izuku heard someone say from behind him. He turned. Team up with me, Mr. First place. Whoa, too close. The girl with the hover boots. I'm Mei Hatsume, from the support course. I don't know you, but I could be useful to someone like you. She blabbed, heedless of anyone around her aside from her target. Joining with you means I'll inevitably be right in the spotlight. And then, inevitably, my super cute babies will be seen by the industry big shots. They'll have to take notice of me and my babies. As she talked, she just seemed to get more and more enthusiastic. But wait, there's more. This could also be advantageous for you. She pulled out some gadgets. In the support course, we develop equipment to make heroes' quirks easier to use. I've got plenty of my babies here, and I'm sure you'll find 1 or 2 that. Izuku spoke loudly, raising his hands to cut her off. Sorry. But I already formed my team. Quote. She froze. But, he wanted to say something nice. She had actually wanted to team up with him. Even if it was just for his points. Hot, those hover boots you used back in the race were awesome. It's just. She smiled, seeming to take the rejection surprisingly well. I get it. You wanna work with your friends. She got up close to his face again. Izuku stepped back. But mark my words. Someday, you're gonna need my babies. And you'll come crawling, begging me to build you the most awesome equipment anyone's ever seen. Her tone wasn't hostile, just filled with certainty and determination. Mr. Quirkless Wonder. Quote. She turned and walked away. Izuku saw a purple-haired guy approach her and heard him say, wow, those gadgets of yours are awesome. Can I see one? Quote. Sure. WHO saw that turnaround coming. WHO even saw it happen. Yeah, when did that happen? Izuku had been keeping an interested eye on the scoreboard. But I was distracted in those last few seconds, must have been then. Wish I'd seen that, though. In fourth, Team Todoroki. No surprise there, said Uraraka, now sitting on the ground, exhausted. These 4 teams will proceed to the final event. As we walked off the field, everyone drifted from our cavalry teams and back into our friend groups. This sucks, said Tsuyu, but congrats all the same, Mina. Bakugo only picked me as a counter-strategy against Todoroki's ice, Mina replied, rubbing the back of her neck. This win doesn't really say anything about my strength. Iida, you were so awesome. Keeping us away from the other teams like that. Uraraka praised, miming Iida's running. Oh, no, Iida waved away her praise. With your zero gravity and Tokiyami's dark shadow, T was a simple matter of paying attention to the different teams' locations relative to our own. Geez. Kirishima groaned, punching Iida in the arm, and I wanted to win so badly. Hey, at least we're moving on, right? Mina cheered him up. Todoroki cut in, it's Midoriya who deserves the praise, for getting such a high score in the first place. He turned to me, and I imagine it was you who came up with that strategy as well. I rubbed the back of my head, blushing. It was nothing, really. I started murmuring, yeah, getting first place in the race was kinda tough, but the cavalry battle wasn't actually so difficult, since I had the ideal team and all, and Kirishima smacked me on the shoulder, a wide grin on his face. You gotta stop it with all that. You did awesome, man. Own it. All that murmuring isn't manly. Yeah, agreed Mina, pretending to be a photographer. A hero's gotta show their stuff. Smile and wave for the camera. Yeah, Deku. Uraraka beamed at me. We wouldn't have gotten first place if it wasn't for you. I blushed even more deeply. Hey, you wanna eat lunch together, Iida? She asked, turning her attention to him. I reflected, as I went to eat with my friends. This might be the best day of my life, so far. As the students filed back into the stadium after lunch, President Mike announced that those not continuing in the competition Ion could still participate in a different activity. Hope everyone enjoys this little recreational competition, he said to the audience. Once that's over, we're on to the final event. Between the 5 members of the 4 winning teams, we'll have a formal tournament. A series of one-on-one battles. A tournament, huh? Said Kirishima, so we'll be up in that ring I see on TV every year. Was it a tournament last year too? Mina asked. Ciro replied, the format's always different, but most years involve some kind of head-to-head competition. Last year, it was foam sword fighting. From the small stage in front of the remaining competitors, Midnight explained this year's competition. The matchups will be decided by drawing lots. She held up a box labeled, lots. Once that's settled, we'll move on to the festivities and then the tournament itself. It's up to each of you 15 finalists whether or not you participate in the fun. I expect some of you would rather take a breather and save your strength. Now, let's start with the first place team. Midnight moved, about to step down from the stage so the students could pick from the box. When she was interrupted. Excuse me, Ojiro raised his hand. I'd like to drop out. There was chatter from all over the stadium, everyone wondering why he'd give up an opportunity to be noticed by the pro heroes. The cavalry battle, Ojiro lowered his arm slightly. Not looking anyone in the eye, I have no memories of anything that happened up until the tail end. It's probably his quirk that did it. Izuku looked around for, who he assumed to be, Shinso. The guy he remembered seeing Ojiro team up with and the one their team was named after. He spotted him standing alone, hands in his pockets and also not looking anyone in the eye. He wasn't even looking at Ojiro. I know this is a great opportunity. And I know how stupid it must seem to throw it away, but this final tournament, he looked at his fist, his face tense, everyone else made it here by their own strength. Yet I'm standing here, and I don't even know how or why. I just can't take it. Quote, you're thinking about it too hard. Toru tried to cheer him up, waving her gloves placatingly. Just show what you're made of in the tournament. By that logic, I shouldn't really be here either. Added Mina. Ojiro lowered his head into his hand, shaking. No, I'm talking about my pride. Here, I don't think it's right. After a few moments pause and muttering from the crowd, President Mike said, we have a strange turn of events. What will the coordinator, Midnight, decide? Aizawa prompted. How naive and green, I like it. Midnight cracked her whip. Grinning, Ojiro has officially withdrawn. That brings us to an even 14 competitors. The screen lit up, a bracket with names displayed on it. Here are the new matchups. The first bracket consisted of Izuku vs Shinso, Todoroki vs Shiro, and Iida vs Hatsume. The second bracket was Kirishima vs Kaminari, Mina vs Aoyama, Tokiyami vs Yaoyorozu, and Uraraka vs Bakugo. If I win my first match, my second's against Todoroki, Izuku thought. But before that, Shinso, Izuku Midoriya, came a voice from behind him, "That's you, yeah." Before Izuku could respond, there was a hand covering his mouth. It was Ojiro. "Midoriya, that guy, don't answer him." Quote. Now let's set aside the tournament for the time being, and get on with the thrill A minute. Festivities. Once Shinso had walked away, Ojiro asked to talk with Izuku alone, leading him to one of the competitor prep rooms, and explained his theory. A mind control quirk. Izuku gaped. "How can I hope to win against that? My loss might be your gain." "My memories cut out from the instant I replied to him," he said, tapping his head with his finger. "That's the trick, I think." "So," Izuku murmured, "it's all over if I slip up and say anything to him." Izuku gave a small shiver. If that was the sauce, that was a powerful tool Shinso had, all right. "Not necessarily," Ojiro said. "It doesn't seem like such an almighty ability. Remember how I said I didn't remember anything up until the end?" Izuku nodded. He'd thought that was odd. When Shinso had us run past to nab Tetsu's headband, I think I must have bumped into Tetsu's formation, 'cause that's when I snapped out of it. I was suddenly aware of what was happening, so it was undone by physical contact. Izuku put a hand to his chin, his mind already comparing and weighing strategies. "That seems very likely," Ojiro nodded, his chair creaking as he leaned back. "That said, I have no idea how strong the contact needs to be. And in a one-on-one match, of course you can't expect any outside help. Anyway, that's all I can tell you." Ojiro got up to leave, and Izuku rose to meet him. "No, that's awesome. Thanks." "No problem. Forgive me if I'm out of line, but," Ojiro held out his fist, "win this one for me." Quote. Before I knew it, the recreational activities were over. It was my turn. Time to face my first serious opponent outside of a classroom. "Hey, guys. Are you ready? You've been through hell to get here. But now it's time for the one-on-one tournament." My heart was racing. But I felt oddly calm, too. Prepared. You've only got yourself to rely on. Even if you're not a hero, this saying holds true. You know it. Spirit, technique, strength, wisdom and knowledge. Use them all and show us your best. Shinso, the audience, and I, all had to wait a few more tense seconds as Smintas put the finishing touches on the arena. Then, we walked out. The first match. Making a scary face. And with the excellent performance to back it up, it's Izuku Midoriya, from the hero course. Versus, sorry, but this guy hasn't really done anything to stand out yet. It's Hitoshi Shinso. From general studies. My ears were ringing from the sheer volume of the crowd's cheering. Evidently, they were looking forward to this event. I supposed I couldn't blame them. The rules are simple. Win by knocking your opponent out of the ring, immobilizing them or getting them to say, "I give up." Bring the pain. We've got our good old recovery girl on standby. And fight dirty if you must. Ethics have no meaning here. Smintas made himself a throne of stone where he could watch the entire arena. Ethics have no meaning. Isn't this a hero fight? I didn't Avenue time to follow that train of thought. Well, of course, going for the kill is a no. You'll be disqualified. Because a true hero's fists fly only when in the pursuit of villains. I give up, huh? Shinso said, get it. Izuku Midoriya. This battle's going to test your strength of will. The look in Shinso's eyes, it looked familiar to me, somehow. If you've got any kind of vision for your future, there's no sense in worrying about how you get there. Now let's get this thing started. Shinso's voice overlapped with present Mike's, like that monkey, babbling about his stupid pride. Ready. Start. Quote. What kind of dumbass throws away a chance like this? Not responding was turning out to be more difficult than I imagined. Save it for later. I mustn't, I kept reminding myself, I can't say anything right now. I told myself the best way to protect my friend's honor, I can't lose this. What I need to think about now. While the two of us were just standing there, the audience unable to hear Shinso's taunting, some unexpected commentary came from above us. I mentioned that entrance exam was completely irrational, Aizawa explained to the crowd and present mic. This kid is a perfect example of why. What's that? Present Mike responded to Aizawa at a lower volume than his usual commentary. Here are the simple specs on these two. I've got THM here because we knew this would be a quirk versus quirk battle. In theory. Anyway. The sound of paper shuffling could be heard. Shinso failed the practical part of the exam, so he lost a spot in the hero course. He got into general studies, though, and that's all he could have hoped for. His quirk is extraordinarily powerful, but, given the format of the practical exam, his ability didn't help him out. And yet, someone with no quirk at all managed to get past it. That's right, Shinso was talking again, thanks to my quirk's nature, I couldn't enter the golden gates. That familiar look in Shinso's eyes intensified. And suddenly, I realized what it was. But you get it. You're not naturally blessed, either. So I don't really have anything against you. That said, I'm not giving up. I swallowed nervously. I do get it. That's how I used to think too. But, I realized, that I should really, just get this over with. Right. I am blessed. Even if it's not, natural. Those people. Shinso's expression turned furious, hateful even. And suddenly, it stopped looking familiar. Born with their awesome quirks, getting to follow all their dreams. Quote, I'm blessed, by the people in my life. By Master, and by my friends. And that's, exactly why. Shinso took a step toward me, say something already. That's why I'm, not gonna lose. Abruptly, Izuku charged at Shinso. Sorry. I really wish I didn't have to do this. It wasn't a surprise. It couldn't be. Of course Shinso tried to run, to fight, nonetheless, with the large gap in their training, experience, and strength. It was a simple matter for Izuku to overpower Shinso. I don't have anything against you either. And throw him out of the ring. After a brief pause out of shock at the sudden, anticlimactic victory, Midnight announced. Shinso is out of the ring. Midoriya moves on to the second round. Izuku Midoriya moves on to the second round. Present Mike repeated, his tone of voice just a tad surprised. Goodness gracious. We're off to an eventful start. Put your hands together for our fierce competitors. As Shinso got up, before he could walk away, Izuku asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Shinso, why do you wanna be a hero so badly? Without even pausing to think, Shinso responded, we don't get to choose the things we naturally admire. Quote. Izuku froze, surprised, and confused. His feelings, they're the same as. Izuku looked up into the stands, but couldn't spot him. I still admire All Might. Or, confused because, at the lack of feeling in his chest, he had to wonder, do I? Izuku was broken from his internal debate, you were awesome out there, Shinso. Shinso's classmates were cheering him from the stands. You had us on the edge of our seats. You're the shining star of us general studies guys. You did just as well as the guy who got third in the obstacle course. Izuku smiled, it was right that they cheer Shinso. He'd done well, why? Is that quirkless kid in the hero course and not Shinso? He has such a strong quirk. Single quote. Single quote. Far away, all for one smirked. That's it. Listen to what the crowd is saying. That quirk would be great against villains. I wish I had it. What the hell's UA thinking? Putting him in general studies, well, they can only admit so many. That's just how it is. There's only so much you can do, and there's such a large gap in their battle experiences. What a shame, a big loss to the hero course, not having a quirk like that. Shinso's classmates heard it too, you're awesome. Hear that, Shinso? Right, Izuku thought. Of course that's how they'll consider transfers to the hero course depending on the results here. Izuku was interrupted again, snapped out of his thoughts this time by the sound of Shinso's voice. Remember that. Maybe I failed this time, but I'm not giving up. His voice was filled with determination, although the hatred wasn't completely gone. All S. How come I've got what it takes to make the hero course, and I'll become a greater hero than all of them? Without thinking, Izuku responded, hang on. Oh, he got me, but why? The match is already over. Peo tend to stiffen up like that. Shinso looked over his shoulder at Izuku, grinning. It'd be easy to mess everything up for you now, so just promise me. He released him. You won't lose in a sorry way out there. This time, Izuku responded with just a smile and a nod. That hatred. He probably has his reasons. Iida and Uraraka had saved a seat for me, and I took it just as the next match began. The wait is over. Moving on, there they are. The cream of the crop. Yet this guy's somehow still as plain as they come. Todoroki's intense focus was a stark contrast to Shiro's relaxed stretching. Honta's Shiro of the hero course. Versus, the best of the best. The strongest of the strong. Shoto Todoroki, also of the hero course. Shiro continued to stretch, raising his arms above his head. Start. Quote. Suddenly, Shiro's stretch became an attack, as tape shot out of his elbows, trapping Todoroki. He's trying to push him out with a surprise attack. It's probably the best strategy for him. Shiro's giving it his all. But even more suddenly, even while being flung close to the edge of the arena. Half of the stadium was covered in ice. There was a tense, shocked silence for a few moments, before cries of, "Good try," started coming from the stands. Shiro is immobilized. Quote. That's an understatement, I thought. Then noticed something. Watching Todoroki thaw Shiro out of the ice with his left hand, I couldn't help it. Todoroki seemed sad. I wonder why. It took the staff a few minutes, but eventually. With the arena all thawed out, it's time for the next match. The sparkling, killing boy from the hero course. Denki Kaminari. I jerked in sudden realization. No, I'm missing it. Scrambling, I pulled out my UA Hero notebook. Number 14. Versus, a passionate, manly fighter as hard as rock. Also from the hero course, it's Eijiro Kirishima. Notebook and pencil now in hand where they belonged, I watched the match intently, while also trying to catch up what I'd noticed from the previous match. Start. Quote. Kirishima managed to dodge Kaminari's first attack by jumping. But the second one, Kirishima is down. But, midnight announced from the arena, Kaminari is out of bounds. The winner is Kirishima. Murmuring, my writing became frantic. I thought Kaminari's quirk would be stronger, but Kirishima managed to endure long enough to push him out of the ring. I wonder, was it his hardening, or was Kaminari holding back so he didn't lose his ability to think? Uraraka leaned over, glancing at my notebook. Your match just ended, but you're already thinking ahead, huh? I jumped, snapping out of my murmured analysis. Nah, I'm just. Well, you could call this a hobby of mine. I tried to hide my blush with my hand. It wasn't working. We finally have the chance to see everyone's quirks in action. Then I remembered. Oh, right. I started flipping through the notebook. I've got everything you'd need to know about Class A in here. Even your zero gravity. Uraraka. And, well, settling on a page, I held it out for her to look at. You need a counter strategy for Kachan. One that works against his quirk. So I thought I'd offer. DEKU. Uraraka had on a polite smile. Why does that make my heart hurt? I thought you were amazing since the day we met, but this sports festival has brought you to a whole other level. Single quote ... question mark. What's she? But there it was. Her smile was more genuine now, though, as she looked down at the arena. Filled with purpose, and that fire from when they first announced the festival. Everyone here is fighting for their futures. Doesn't that make us all rivals? So, that's why I have to say, thanks, DEKU, but, she turned back to me with a close-eyed smile. That's okay. I'll see you in the finals. Moving on, who's next in the battle for the top? Sitting next to each other, after a conversation like that, was a little awkward. But, also somehow kinda nice, I thought. The first round's just under half over. Next up is Tenya Iida of the hero course. Versus, covered head to toe in support items, Mei Hatsume of the support course. Single quote ellipsis exclamation mark. It's that goggles girl. There. Was some conflict over whether Iida using Mei's support items was against the rules or not, which allowed me to catch up with my notes. Eventually, Midnight decided that, since both parties were fine with it, it was okay. But I had to wonder, would that goggles girl, May, really share her equipment, to be fair? I think she's. Start. Quote. And I was right. The match ended up being a 10-minute game of tag that doubled as a play-by-play sales pitch of each of May's support items. It ended when the jetpack Iida was wearing activated and, combined with the momentum of his running, launched him out of bounds. Iida is out of the ring. And, since there's an uneven number of matchups, Hatsume moves immediately to the third round. I had to admit, May's equipment was impressive. I should get in touch with her later. See what else she has. I almost wish I'd taken her offer. Iida is just way too serious. Uraraka was on the verge of laughing. It wasn't hard for her to get him to play her game. No kidding. She has a real mind for strategy, huh? Uraraka got up, suddenly sober. Right, I'd better get to the prep room. I looked up from my notes, then, to wish her good luck. I watched her go, wondering what her strategy was against Kachan. Well, there are 2 more matches before hers. I turned back to my notes. And she's had plenty of time to think, before now. Yeah, Uraraka can handle herself. Single quote. Mina won her match by damaging Aoyama's belt with her acid, and punching him, and Tokiyami simply overpowered Momo, pushing her out of the ring. I felt only a little sorry for Momo. Tokiyami was an extremely strong opponent in a one-on-one match, admittedly. And he hadn't given Momo much time to use the objects she'd created. But seeing as those objects had, apparently, been a shield and staff, I didn't like her chances, even if she had been given an opportunity to use them. Finally, for the last matchup of the first round, a celebrity since his middle school days. With a face only a mother could love, it's Katsuki Bakugo of the Hero Course versus my personal pick, Ochako Uraraka, also of the Hero Course. Start. Quote. Uraraka charged Kachan. Single quote. Exclamation mark. She might just. And he exploded a palm directly in her face, too fast for Uraraka to dodge. Pull this off. As the match went on, I caught on to what Uraraka was doing. Using the rubble as a sort of bomb attack was super clever, but. Quote. Uraraka, Midnight announced, is unable to continue. Uraraka collapsed after only one attempt at the technique. Bakugo moves on to the second round. Midnight crouched over the exhausted girl. Oh, poor Uraraka, taken down by Bakugo in the first round. If you're going to be an announcer, then do it right, Aizawa criticized. Present Mike ignored him. Get it together, everyone. You're making this way too personal. The first round is now over. We'll move on to the second after a quick break. Such an extreme self-sacrificing strategy, Uraraka. I thought. Making my way to the prep room for my second match, if only her weight capacity were higher, or, yeah. She might have been able to corner him if. Kachan came up one of the stairways as I was passing by. I elected to ignore him, but. You helped her come up with it, didn't you? That freaking self-sacrificing scheme of hers. Kachan stopped at the top of the stairs. I stopped walking and faced him. You caused me a lot of trouble out there. I didn't. That was all Uraraka. I interrupted. If that was, a lot of trouble, for you, then that was all Uraraka messing with you. Kachan just stared at me. Quote. Congrats on your win. I turned my back to Kachan. See you, what's up with you? I turned back. Kachan growled, stomping up to me, ever since you got into this place. You've been freaking weird. Weirder fed me by the collar. So I'm asking, yeah, what's going on with you? Quote. We stood like that for a moment. The sound of the crowd cheering, my face unreadable. Shouldn't I be scared? That plant's effects are gone. But, I glared at Kachan. No, I'm not scared. Because. I grabbed Kachan's arm, let go of me, Bakugo, and twisted it. Goo, with a small grimace. Bakugo released me. Without another word, without looking back, I continued walking to the prep room. But not my prep room. Uraraka, having changed out of her uniform, sat at a table. When she spotted me come in the doorway, she beamed at me like usual. Guess I lost. I just got carried away at the end when I thought I could actually win. I walked up to her, looking her over skeptically. Uraraka, are you hurt? Quote. I'm good. Well, I'm healing bit by bit, so my stamina doesn't get drained. Just these little scrapes left. Her expression did a 180. Her face scrunched up and she growled. But darn it, I couldn't put a scratch on him. Guess I just gotta try harder next time. Quote. I hesitated, not wanting to impose on her, or waste my own prep time. I need to go prep, but. I just wanted to say, I think you should focus on combat. Uraraka blinked at me. What makes you say that? Well, it's just. Oh. She smiled brightly. Does this have to do with that strategy you came up with for me? Kinda. I looked away from her. I could stand up to Cacta Bakugo, but being close to Uraraka still made me blush. If you had more hand-to-hand combat training, you might have been able to get close enough to Bakugo to touch him and make him float. Uraraka stared at me, her eyes slowly lighting up and becoming even brighter. I was looking anywhere but at her. I'll let you borrow my notebook later, but I really need to get to the prep room, bye. I all but ran to my prep room. Ellipsis. Before I knew it, it was time for what I knew would be my biggest challenge yet. Both of these competitors have won top marks in this festival so far. During the cavalry battle, I'd been able to just run away. Same with the race, in a way. But there's only room for one of these greats in the ring. Now I'd have to fight him head on. It's Midoriya versus Todoroki. As soon as he says it, I can't afford to hesitate. Single quote. Start. Quote. Immediately, I leapt as far to my right, Todoroki's left, as possible, aimed. And used the new tool Master gave me for the first time in this competition. The place where I was just standing was, predictably, now covered in a wall of ice. And I hadn't dodged completely. Despite my best efforts, and being completely prepared for it, my feet were frozen. I couldn't move. WHOAAA. What just happened? I didn't see a thing. Has the match been decided? It took a few seconds for the mist to clear. When it did, Midnight looked at both contestants, and walked up to Todoroki. Todoroki and Midoriya are both immobilized, but I was grinning. I knew. I could practically see a recording of the fight in my mind. Me jumping, Todoroki firing his ice, me firing a knockout bullet in Todoroki's face, and Todoroki collapsing before my feet froze. Todoroki was immobilized first. Midoriya moves on to the third round. Quote. Yes. What happened to, don't make it personal. Present. Mike jeered at Aizawa. Waiting for my feet to be thawed, I listened to the audience. After their reaction to me winning against Shinso. That Midoriya, he should have gotten straight up blown away. Did Todoroki not have a plan, or? So. My heart sank. It's the same. All for one grinned. Did Todoroki even want to win? Or was he trying to lose? Either way, Todoroki sure has some impressive power. Midoriya's got moxie, for sure, but Todoroki put up such a good show through the cavalry battle, come on. The audience seemed to be having the effect he'd hoped. That is, if the boy's expression was anything to go by. He turned away from the screen. He actually made it past that prodigy. Well, then. Time to begin the next phase, Kurogiri. Even after his feet were unfrozen, part of the stage was still covered in ice. So there was a short break. When Izuku returned to the stands, Iida called out to him, Midoriya. Congratulations on your win. Izuku faked enthusiasm as best he could, right. Thanks. How did you win against Todoroki's ice, anyway? Still wearing a fake smile, Izuku sat down beside Iida. Before speaking, he went over how much Master said he was allowed to share. Quote. Well, I knew my physical equipment and abilities wouldn't count for much against Todoroki's speed and quirk, so I dodged as soon as the match began and shot him with a bullet filled with a potent knockout gas. Iida's face was shocked. They approved that kind of equipment. Well, Izuku looked away from him toward the arena. They said as long as I provided my own equipment, and as long as the gun was incapable of firing real bullets, it was fine. I suppose that makes sense. They allow Aoyama to use his belt, as it's a necessary support item. With you having no quirk, any equipment you normally use would be necessary to even the playing field. He's right, so why does it feel like that comparison is wrong? Izuku looked back at Iida. The other boy looked Contemplative isn't the right word. Already, the ice was almost melted. So now you're in the final four, Iida said. I hope my match against Hatsume was informative for you. Izuku couldn't help noticing how look on Iida's face changed when he said that. Oh, of course. He's upset that he lost. Hoping to cheer Iida up, Izuku switched topics. Yeah, it was. Hey. Do you know if your brother Ingenium has been watching you this whole time? Iida. He called me earlier, but he was busy with work. I'm actually glad though. Iida smiled warmly. Even after coming this far, I still can't say I'm number one yet. Because of that smile, Izuku couldn't tell whether the change of topic was a success or not. Soon, though, they were distracted by the next few matches. Izuku pulled his notebook back out. 2. Koyami barely needed to put any effort into his fight against Ishido. It was practically over the same moment it began, and the tournament moved on to the next match. Kirishima lasted better against Bakugo than Izuku would have thought possible. His hardening seemed strong enough to stand up to anything Bakugo's explosions could dish out. Meanwhile, Kirishima was wearing Bakugo down with a relentless barrage of physical blows. However, Bakugo was ultimately victorious, wearing Kirishima down, in turn, with some rapid-fire, weaker explosions. And with that, we've got our final four. Looks lick. Bakugo was playing the long game from the beginning. Izuku scratched some notes down onto the paper in front of him, since, for the moment, Kirishima can only turn his quirk either all on or all off. Bakugo forced Kirishima to keep it on. Izuku sweated, once again realizing exactly what he could be up against in the final round. But first, he had someone else to deal with. Someone with a distinctly different advantage over him. An advantage that almost had him more worried. Unpredictability. There was another quick break before the final four matchups. Then, both of these competitors have all sorts of gadgets up their sleeves. It's a battle of equipment and skill. Izuku Midoriya vs. Mei Hatsume. Start. Quote. Izuku tensed, wary and unwilling to make the first move. Well, this is a little awkward. And I'm afraid it won't boost your reputation, either, but, Hatsume said, rocking on her heels. I actually was planning to forfeit during my match with Iida, once I was done showing off my babies, but Iida got blown away before I could. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, she walked over to the boundary line, they've seen it all now. There's nothing left to show, so I'm out. She stepped over the line. Present Mike's voice reflected everyone's shock. Hatsume has stepped out of the ring. Izuku blinked, relaxing really happening. Midoriya moves on without lifting a finger. The audience booed as he walked back inside. Why did this outcome make him even more nervous? Because next, I'm fighting either Tokiyami or Bakugo, he swallowed, and I'm pretty sure I know which it's going to be. What made his remaining uncertainty worse, though, was that, while he couldn't see what was happening from the prep room, he could still hear Present Mike's commentary. Bakugo's unstoppable. Tokiyami's come this far with a series of wins thanks to his near-invincible quirk, but, now he's totally on the defensive. He can't even get close. He could still turn this around if Bakugo doesn't figure out his secret weakness. He's behind him. Who's behind who? Always with these dust clouds. What's happened down there? There was silence. Then Midnight's voice, Tokiyami has surrendered. Bakugo wins. Looks like our final match is set. Midoriya vs. Bakugo. Izuku got up. I can't even leave for the arena yet. There was still Bakugo's prep time before the match. He started pacing instead. So, it's us two, how's this gonna go? Meanwhile, in the stands. Poor Tokiyami, Uraraka said. Iida agreed. Observe and learn now, and we'll get him back later. Right, she shouted, clenching her fists and looking determined. Suddenly, Iida's entire body started vibrating. Whoa. What's that? My phone, Iida replied calmly. But when he saw the caller ID, he decided to walk away before answering. Hello. I lost. Mother, I apologize if I've disappointed you. No. This isn't about that. Oh, Tenya, stay calm and listen to me. It's Tensai, your brother. Iida froze. That tone of voice, and his brother, what was she? A villain got him. Hosu City. Alone, masculine figure perched on top of a water tank on a roof. You people haven't realized how they're mired in vanity and Hypocrisy, they spoke to no one, or perhaps the crowds below, who were too far away to hear them. Ha, these so-called heroes, in this twisted society. But I will make you realize. They were interrupted. We meet at last, hero killer, Stain. Quote. Stain swung the sword on his back in the voice's direction. If its owner had been corporeal, he probably would have killed them. Oh, please. Relax, we're on the same side, you're already quite infamous. I really wanted to meet you. The owner of the voice appeared to be a living shadow. But out of that shadow came another figure. One that didn't have any eyes. May we have a moment of your time? Back at the sports festival. Still waiting in his prep room, Izuku was sitting in his chair again, nervously tapping his foot and staring at the page of instructions and predictions in front of him, when the door flew open. Bakugo stood there, his foot in the air where the door used to be. Huh. He lowered his foot, his confusion turning immediately into anger. Huh. Why are you in here, stupid Deku? Izuku, despite his previous nerves, now that he's here, in front of me. Without any emotion in his voice, Izuku said, this is prep room 2. Huh. Bakugo glanced back outside the door. Prep room, ah. Crap. Izuku looked back at his notes, but he wasn't seeing them. What's with my reactions lately? Is it a side effect of that plant? Maybe it lasts longer than I thought. Hey, I mean I get that I walked into the wrong room, but giving your final opponent the cold shoulder. What's the big idea? Look me in the eye, stupid Deku. Izuku looked up at him, that question still in his mind. Then it occurred to him. We've been friends since we were kids, right? And you said that I've been acting weird, right? Bakugo looked taken aback for a split second, then the anger came back, even fiercer than before. You damned nerd, who the hell cares? He kicked the table over, and Izuku's notebook went flying. All your stupid plans, you're asking me about your damned feelings. Who cares? Just come at me with all you've got. He walked over to the door, and I'll crush you like the damned pebble you are. As the sound of Bakugo's footsteps faded, Izuku picked up his notes. He stared at his plans for the final match. With all I've got, huh? Alright, I suppose, there's nothing else left to do. Immediately, without even checking to see what Bakugo would do, I drew my gun, and fired into the air directly in front of me. As I was still drawing the gun, the air behind Bakugo exploded and he rocketed toward me. However, he aimed slightly to the left, just barely avoiding the knockout bullet. I dodged to my own left after my first shot and fired again directly behind me. The ground where I'd been standing exploded, covering the spot in a cloud of dust, rubble, and knockout gas. I, not taking my eyes from the cloud that hid Bakugo from view, backed up to the other end of T. He arena, while changing the gun's ammo to the grapple and grabbing a net grenade from my belt. The gauntlet's been thrown down. Looks like Midoriya wants to avoid combat with Bakugo. Do we already have our winner so soon? You, looking down on me, you moron. I grit my teeth, waiting for Bakugo to appear. Plan A failed. Bakugo came shooting out of the cloud faster than I had ever seen him move. I pulled the pin on the grenade and threw it. All the adrenaline in my system, all the hours spent in combat training with Master, made it seem as though Bakugo was moving in slow motion. Bakugo's palm turned from behind him. To his right, I aimed the grapple, fired. And time resumed its normal speed. The grapple line wrapped around Bakugo, pinning his arms. Before he could hit the ground and lose momentum, I pulled with my entire body weight. But as Bakugo neared the boundary line, his palms exploded again, and the line broke. His momentum continued to carry him out of bounds for a second. I, immediately changing the gun's ammo again, had a flash of hope that Plan B might have worked. He avoids a ring out in midair. How thrilling. But Bakugo regained his balance, as a part of me knew he would. No choice, Plan C it is. Single quote. I holstered the gun. Bakugo came in hot, but I jumped away in time. This time, Bakugo stayed on the ground, and I dropped into a fighting stance. Bakugo stood still for just a second. You'll regret making a fool of me, then came at me with his signature right hook. I'll freaking kill you. Rather than move away this time, I used my left arm to slide Bakugo's right arm to the side, and I kicked out at Bakugo's stomach. Bakugo dodged. I wanted the first to end all firsts, and swiped at my feet. I jumped, backing off, but there's no point in winning against you. He lunged at me with a roundhouse kick, no point if I'm not better than you. I crouched, Bakugo's foot passing above me, and went for an uppercut. Bakugo spun, dodging it, so get the hell out of my face. With the force of the spin, Bakugo elbowed me in the back. I stumbled to the ground. Why are you even here, you bastard? Quote. While Bakugo was busy screaming at me and couldn't see my hands. I grabbed and fired my gun at Bakugo's feet. Bakugo was now frozen to the arena floor. But knowing it wouldn't hold him, only distract him for a split second, at best, I moved. A snarl on my face. I launched myself fist first at Bakugo's face. It landed, and a small puff of knockout gas surrounded Bakugo's head. Unprepared for the hidden knockout bullet this time, let alone the ice blast. Bakugo couldn't avoid breathing the gas. With a small gasp, and one last growl and glare, Bakugo passed out. Bakugo is immobilized. So, Midoriya is the winner. Midnight announced. I almost didn't believe it, and I almost passed out from the relief. Swaying, I took a step back to steady myself. And that concludes our contest. The first year, winner of UA's Sports Festival is Izuku Midoriya of Class A. But, predictably, as I walked out of the arena, the entire stadium booed. Back in All for One's viewing room, the man with no eyes turned to the hero kill him on street. Ain was observing the screen with interest. He didn't answer at first. Kurogiri shifted nervously. A quirkless hero, Stain muttered. Abruptly, he turned to All for One. Kurogiri tensed, ready to defend his master, if necessary. I want to test him myself. So he wants to be a hero, despite not having a quirk. That doesn't mean he deserves to be one. Very well, said All for One, completely calm. He'd expected this. What do you have in mind? The wait before the awards ceremony was intense. From what I, and everyone else, could tell, the judges were debating something. Finally, the winners were called up to our respective platforms. The first place won highest and in the middle, the third was lowest and to the right, and second was between the two and on the left. But, there was something off. Now let's move on to the awards ceremony. Midnight announced, no holding back Mr. First place. What a bloodthirsty beast, commented Tokiyami, who was standing furthest from me. On the second place pedestal. I was confused, to put it lightly. In third place, we have both Todoroki and Midoriya. Midnight said, there was a disagreement concerning the outcome of Midoriya and Todoroki's match. After reviewing it, the judges have determined that, if left alone, Todoroki would have woken before the ice immobilizing Midoriya would have melted. My ears were ringing. However, we don't have time to redo all of the matches, so, as a compromise, both Midoriya and Todoroki are being given third place. Making Hatsume and Tokiyami tied for second and our winner. Katsuki Bakugo. The audience was muttering, they were making sounds of approval. Now for the medals. Presenting them this year is, you know who. A voice came from above the stadium, I am, and All Might landed in the center of the stage. Here with the medals. He's everyone's hero, All Might. Quote. The crowd cheered. All Might laughed, moving toward Todoroki. Congratulations, Todoroki, kid. You're a strong one, but relying on half your power will only get you so far. Whatever reason you have for not using it, you must learn to overcome that hurdle. He put a medallion around Todoroki's neck. All Might then turned to me. Midoriya. Kid, congratulations. He continued in a lower voice, I underestimated you. And for that, I'm sorry. I stand by what I said, but. He put the medallion around my neck, you too, can become a hero. I barely heard him. I was looking All Might in the eyes again. The time on that rooftop, all those classes I'd been in, all the times All Might had been there, teaching me, watching me grow and what I could do. And this was when he'd decided to say those words. I was so caught up in my thoughts, I missed whatever All Might said to Mei and Tokiyami. And finally, Bakugo. Well, this is. Bakugo was going absolutely feral. They'd even had to muzzle him. All Might didn't seem to know how to approach the furious boy, but, after a moment, All Might took the muzzle off of Bakugo's face and said. You lived up to your promise. Wonderful. All Might. This win, Bakugo growled, it doesn't mean squat. Doesn't matter what anyone says. If I don't recognize it, then that metal's just garbage. Quote, what a face, All Might gulped, HMPH. In a world that's constantly graded on a curve, there aren't many who can continuously be on top. He held up the first place medallion, so accept this as a wound even, so you don't forget. I told you I don't need that junk. All Might tried to put the medallion around his neck, but Bakugo struggled against it. Bakugo roared, at least let me fight the icy hot bastard. Quote, eventually, All Might managed to hang the medallion from Bakugo's growling mouth. Well, these are your winners. But hold on, everyone. And then he said, that phrase. Everyone here today has the potential to be standing up here. I could have sworn I'd just fallen 6 stories and swallowed the foulest thing known to mankind. That is, if the way my stomach felt hearing All Might say those words was anything to go by. And somehow, All Might was still talking, in that cheerful, self-confident and congratulatory tone. As you all witnessed, competition, encouragement, pushing each other to climb higher and higher. What's going on? What is this feeling? The sprouts of today will grow into the heroes of tomorrow. In that spirit, let's have one final cheer. Everyone say it with me. 1, 2, and oh, I realized, breaking out of my daze. 7 times. Isn't that something? Yeah, I replied distractedly, too focused on eating my breakfast as quickly as possible. I fainted 7 whole times since the cavalry battle. Enthused my mother, and the last 2 times were from dehydration. You've even got me beat in that depart. Meant, I mumbled around the last of my eggs. Quote. I know you told me that private mentor of yours is helping you, but why do you have to fight using such risky methods? I glanced up at my mother, but didn't pause or slow in my eating. I didn't answer, I had no answer my mother didn't already know. Of course I support you, and I am so proud of you, but that doesn't mean I won't worry. Yeah, I swallowed the last of my food and stood up. My mother's plate was untouched. Wanna see the videos? She said excitedly, they're in HD. HD. Sure, I'll take a look later, alone. I put my shoes on and grabbed my bag. After I get back, I need to meet my mentor to train today. I opened the door. Love you. See you later, I said over my shoulder. Izuku. Wait a moment. My mom walked over, took my head in her hands, and, putting her lips on my forehead, gave me a long kiss. When I looked up at her afterwards, she was smiling warmly. I love you too, sweetie. I stared at her for a moment, then smiled back. I met Master at the bar that day, rather than the warehouse. When I entered, I noticed the plant was in one corner underneath an ultraviolet light. Congratulations on your win, Midoriya. Master was sitting in the same spot as when I had first met him. In fact, aside from the presence of the plant and absence of Kurogiri, the bar looked almost identical. But I didn't win. You would have, Master said. If you had had a quirk. I set my bag on the counter, taking a seat. What do you mean? Well, Master swirled the liquid in the small cup he was holding. The judges didn't say, Iida wins his match because, if the wind hadn't blown him, or if the arena was bigger, he'd have landed and defeated Hatsume, did they? And yet, Hatsume didn't use her quirk. She won with technology. And technology alone. It was gear she made, though, I said, I didn't make mine. Did she use her quirk to make that gear? I looked away from him. Quote. It's okay to be angry. I looked back up. I dare say you should be angry. Quote. I'm not angry, though, I said, looking down at my hands. I fidgeted, twisting my fingers together and apart. I'm confused, and frustrated, and disappointed. Because you thought heroes were fair. More fair than normal people. Well, they're heroes. That's what they do. Master sat for a moment, still swirling his drink. Quote. I want to show you something. He set his glass on the table and pulled a small device from his pocket. He messed with it, tapping at the screen, then handed it to me. A video played on it. A dark-haired young man was giving a speech from a street corner. He was trying to tell the people passing by about something he called the revival of heroics, but no one was stopping to listen except, apparently, the person recording the video, who was snickering and making fun of the man. The video didn't show the beginning of the speech, and it didn't last until the end, but it was enough to understand what the man was getting at. He claimed heroes had become mostly corrupt, believing that the entire system needed to be changed to prevent those without sufficient passion from getting licenses. When it finished, Master asked me what I thought. I dunno, he had some good points, and think things are as bad as he was claiming. I mean, some heroes need to take on outside work to make a living. Most need to. And as long as they're helping people, I don't think a person's motives for becoming a hero matter. Master picked his glass up, swallowed the contents, set it down, then pulled out a ECE of paper and pen from another pocket. He wrote down an address. Go for a walk for me. I can't go with you, as I have other things I need to take care of today, but go to this address. He slid the paper over to me. No need to go inside, just look around the area a bit. I took the paper, and Master said goodbye to me, going through a door letting, I could only assume, further inside the building. I looked at the address. The place Master wanted me to go was on the outskirts of the city. I'd need to take a train, and even then, I'd be gone all day. But, if it was for my training, then of course I'd go. As I made my way there, I couldn't help noticing how the people on the street were whispering about me, as though I couldn't hear them. Should have caught their mistake sooner. Why did they even let him attend? Poor, delusional. I tried to ignore them, to act like I really couldn't hear. When I made it to the address, it just looks like a normal neighborhood. Maybe a little rowdier than usual. I'd been wandering around for an hour or so, when someone raced past me. From behind me, I heard a man yell, "Stop." I turned around to see who had yelled. The man was also running, but he was out of breath. The man looked at me and yelled again, "Stop them. They took my wallet." Wah! My mind raced. Wait, I saw a hero patrolling. Turning my head left and right, I spotted the hero. I called to them, and they came jogging over. This man, I gestured to the man who, seeing what I was doing and too exhausted to continue, had stopped nearby. His wallet was stolen. The thief went that way. I pointed, expecting the hero to pursue the thief. But, the hero looked dumbfounded. "Is that all you called me over here for?" I gaped at the hero. "I need that money." The man stood up straight, desperation in his eyes. "Without it, I'll lose my apartment. That's all the money I have for the entire month." Quote, "I need to stay alert for real threats. Don't call me over for." I joined in the man's desperation, but he needs that money to eat. Without it, you don't know this place, kid. The hero glared at us both. I can't afford to go after every crime I see. Or I'll miss when something actually dangerous happens. And I realized, this was the only hero I'd seen since getting to this area. "There's a surplus of heroes in the city," I muttered. "Why is no one here?" "Because we need to eat too," the hero, thinking the question was directed at him, answered, "and this isn't a good location, so no hero agencies set up shop here. The only reason I'm here is 'cause I live nearby. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to work." The hero walked off. The victim of the theft collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily. The way his breaths came in bursts, suggested it wasn't from the running. With the thief long gone, the only thing I could do for the man was give him what money I had. The man, still panicking, commented it was only about half of what he'd lost. But thanked me anyway. I barely slept that night. My mind kept spinning over and over, playing my experience with the thief and hero, and the video about the revival of heroics, on an endless, jumbled loop. I walked to UA in a haze the next morning, umbrella in hand, doing my best to pretend the whispering of the crowd was just the rain. I didn't register the sound of rapid, splashing footsteps approach me. "Good morning, Midoriya." Quote, I nearly jumped out of my skin. "Oh, it's only Iida." The other student, sporting a poncho and rain boots, slowed his speed to talk to me. "This is no time for an idle stroll. We'll be late. But we've got 5 minutes before the first bell. The students of UA make it a point to arrive 10 minutes early." Quote, Iida's speed picked back up. I did my best to match Iida's pace. My mind freed of its heavier thoughts. I remembered hearing about Ingenium, Iida's older brother, being attacked the day of the sports festival. I hadn't had a chance to talk to Iida since then. But once inside at our lockers and shedding our wet shoes, poncho and umbrella. I couldn't think of what to say. "You needn't worry about my brother," Iida said. Seeming to guess what I was thinking, I apologize if he or I caused you any undue concern. He sent me an easy smile. I very much doubted Iida was actually okay. But, I couldn't think of anything else to say or do. So, for the time being, I decided to drop it. Inside the classroom, everyone was chatting about how much attention they'd been getting since the SP Orts festival. People stopping to talk to them, staring at them, congratulating them. One little event, and suddenly the world's got its eye on us. That's UA for ya. Aizawa walked in, and everyone settled into their seats. Morning. Quote. Good morning. The class replied. Today we've got Hero Informatics class. And a special one at that. You'll be coming up with your hero aliases. Everyone started cheering, standing up, jumping into the air, even. My mood lifted. We get to choose our hero names. Aizawa erased everyone's quirks to get us to quiet down again. But first, concerning the pro draft picks I mentioned the other day, it's based on who the pros think will be ready to join the hero workforce after another 2 or 3 years of experience. So you could say that it's a way F. Or them to show interest in your futures. But there's ample time for their interest to wane before you graduate, Aizawa warned, and any and all offers can be arbitrarily revoked. It happens quite often. My mood shot right back down. So if we're picked now, that just means there'll be higher hurdles in the years to come. Said Toru. Yes. A graph with a few names appeared on the board behind Aizawa. Now, here are the complete draft pick numbers. Todoroki was highest, with over 3,000 offers. Bakugo had about half of that, and Tokiyami was close behind. Iida had only about 700. After that, the numbers dropped to around 300 and less. My name wasn't even on the board. There's typically more of a spread. But our finalists stole most of the spotlight, Aizawa commented. These pros have no eyes for talent, said Aoyama. His name wasn't on the board, either. Didn't they get the order mixed up? Said Kirishima. Midoriya's not even on there. Guess they were scared of the guy who was literally chained to the winner's stand, commented Shiro. Bakugo was cursing the pros from behind him, not to mention how what happened with Midoriya messed up the scores. Momo congratulated Todoroki on his number of offers. It's mostly just my father's influence, I shouldn't have even been given third place. I lost to Midoriya fair and square. Whoa. Uraraka shook Iida's shoulders excitedly. Although it was unclear whether she was excited on Iida's behalf, or because her name was on the board. With that settled, whether you were picked or not, you will all have a chance to work alongside the pros. Aizawa cleared the board. Seeing the pros in action and taking part yourselves will be worthwhile training and experience. Sato cut in with an excited, that's where our hero names come in. Quote. This is really getting fun. Uraraka agreed. They're only tentative, Aizawa said, but you still want to pick something appropriate. Or else you'll know true hell. Aizawa was cut off by Midnight, who strutted into the room. The name you pick now, may be what the world ends up calling you. That's happened to plenty of pros out there. Yes, true enough, said Aizawa. And Midnight here will be assessing the sensibility of the names you pick. I'm no good at that. Aizawa pulled his sleeping bag out, but gave one final piece of advice to the sea. What future do you see for yourself? The name you choose will bring you closer to cementing a certain image, because names are capable of reflecting one's true character. Like with All Might. My classmates all got really into it. They seemed to be picking names left and right. Many, I didn't doubt, had names prepared for years, but it took a while for people to work up the nerve to present them. Many also struggled to find a name Midnight approved of. Todoroki and Iida ended up just using their own names. Before I met All Might and Master, I came up with a whole list of homage names: Mighty, Super Might, Mighty Man. But, I stared at the whiteboard in my hands, but now that I've made it here, and after what All Might said, I can't use any of those. Not anymore. I don't even know if I still. I cut that thought off. No, that's not true. I just. Ellipsis. In the end, like Todoroki, Iida, and surprisingly Bakugo, I couldn't decide on a hero name. Stain stood smiling. Well, all for one prompted. Does he pass? Stain's smile grew. Finally, maybe there's hope for Hero Society yet. Stain didn't take his eyes off the screen, as it showed Izuku Midoriya arg. UING with the pro, hero, who'd ignored the thief right in front of them. Stain's smile grew even wider at the sight of Izuku giving the victim his own money. Yes, I'll train him. Thanks for watching. Teaching you, after all.